Thank you. We're now going into our council meeting workshop. It's 5:47. Let the record show that all council members are present. Madam Secretary, we will do citizen comments. Citizen petition.
Yes, ma'am. CP 23019, Cameron Cochran.
Thank you. Sir, good evening. You have 4 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I would like to discuss an important issue that I think should be highlighted, and that is water. In my opinion, we have mismanagement of the water supply here in Killeen. I would like to consider a memorandum or resolution to limit the number of commercially business-owned water, such as car washing facilities, in the city limits, as well as put a fine-based approach to those continuously broken water pipes that we have here in Killeen. Let me further expand that and go back to the car wash issue. I provided in a package, hopefully you have. I drove around a 7-mile radius of the city of Killeen and located 29 car washes within 7 miles. I also located under construction 4 signs that said new car washes coming soon. The city of Killeen are the ones that approve, either through the city council or through the sub-offices, car wash permits. Within a 7-mile radius, I don't know of any other place that has around 33 car washes. That's a lot of car washes and a lot of water that I think is mismanaged. The second thing is broken pipes. I looked at the broken water notices and found out that between January and today, we have around 85 broken water pipes that have occurred throughout the city. And I was astounded that there's no one held accountable for doing that. They just break them, fix them, and families have to live with it. So that's 85 families or businesses or streets that have broken water pipes that have no consequences. So if you propose a fine, because I'm told that there's a third-party contractor that works on the water pipes, maybe that company won't freely break the water pipes like they've been doing for the past year and a half. Let's see. This may not be the right form, but I'm curious, I did not see in the budget the extra revenue that's coming from the solar eclipse. I think if we use that money with the 50,000 expected visitors.
Sir, your citizen petition is about business-owned car washes in the city limits of Killeen.
Right, I would use that revenue from those visitors at the eclipse to help defray at one time it was 85 cents, and now I'm told that it's going to be $1.50 rate increase. So I'm saying use that money from the eclipse towards not giving a rate increase.
Are you talking about the budget, or are you talking about the car wash? Because if it's about the budget, you could speak on that in the,
A different form.
Yes, sir.
I understand. All right, just want to highlight that there is currently mismanagement based on breaking water pipes with no accountability, as well as the city continuously approving permits for car washes upon car washes, and as I highlighted, 33 within a 7-mile radius. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is your thing working, Mayor?
So the water that I do know, do you have any more questions?
No, I'm just waiting for you to ask me if you have anything for me. The
Oh,
1
no,
minute
we
rebuttal.
don't, but I do know Mr. Reynolds could answer this question, but I'm going to answer it for him.
Thank you.
When other companies do break a pipe in the city of Killeen, we do bill them for the repairs. Oh, it's up there, but it's not here. Councilmember Sagara.
Thank you, Mayor. And that's very interesting, because I've thought about the same thing. He brought up a good issue up here with, as far as the car washes. No, I'm pro-business, and I don't think we should restrict, businesses from putting up the businesses. But when it comes to when we have water shortage and stuff, I notice kind of the same thing, there are car washes being put up here quite a bit. And so I don't know if that was just me or anything, but I would like to, have a discussion in the future about that, because I see that, we have something going on with all these car washes. And I think that because of our water shortage, something that the council should discuss here in the future. So I would like to move that we bring this item as far as talking about car washes sometime in the future, Mayor.
So you want to do a motion of direction?
Second.
Yeah, I move as a motion of direction, this be put on an agenda item on a future council meeting.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion of direction that staff will bring back a presentation on the car washes in our community by Councilmember Sagara, and it was seconded by Councilmember Boyd. Do anyone else have any discussion? Councilmember Adams?
No, I was just going to either do the motion or do a second on that.
Councilmember Boyd?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll make this quick. I will echo what I hear or read from a lot of citizens on Facebook in the city of Killeen. We have too many car washes. That may not be my belief, but we do hear and read that a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. I do know we may have a lot of car washes in Killeen and other cities, but it is someone with a small business owner. So with that being said, all in favor, yes, of the motion of direction to bring, the staff will bring this back, a presentation on the car washes in Killeen. All opposed, no. Madam Secretary, carries 7-0. We will now have citizen,
Madam Mayor, the vote was 6-1 with Councilmember Alvarez in opposition.
am I missing something up there? Oh, it's at the end. Sorry about that. I agree. 6-1. I apologize. Now we will go into our citizen comments. Melissa Brown. You have 4 minutes.
My first comment for Station 42 is going to be very quick and brief. Even though we're going to discuss the status of it, there is a PFC meeting that is passed due. Bylaws say that it should be held every June, and we are now in August. So I think that would be an appropriate time to not only discuss the status, but also be able to discuss the income that will be coming along with that starting next year. In regard to the other items, it's all, again, intertwined. You've got your budget and you've got these rate increases that are already built into the budget. I've seen it in the presentation where it says if you're going to challenge any of these rate increases, you need to do it within the next 3 weeks in order to stay on target for the budget. So these are already assumed that the council is going to approve them. But what I will say is that there is some sticker shock with all of this. We have an issue with having affordable housing right now. With the amount of increases that we have in the community development, planning and development and engineering and public works, it will only serve to increase the cost of building houses. Now, this is going to surprise a lot of people coming from me. I am not anti-development. I think we need to do it in a smart manner. But we cannot shut down development altogether. We cannot make it so expensive that we drive out our local builders who have a stake in our city. And I am afraid that if these rates pass the way that they are presented, that is exactly what we're going to do. The national chains that come in, we hear a lot of complaints about D.R. Horton. They're a national chain. They don't have any stake in Killeen. Our local builders do, which is why we don't get as many complaints about our local builders. And we hear that their quality is better. We cannot push them out of the city of Killeen. In regards to what I was speaking about earlier, if anyone is interested, page 257 in the hard copy book or page 246 online is where it has the golf course budget on it that says $224,679 for office supplies, $31,500 for supplies, and $121,555 for cost of goods sold, which would be the stuff that is purchased to replenish stock at the pro shop. So I'm not spending that on that, and I did not come up here intending for anyone to believe that I feel the golf course is spending $225,000 a year on office supplies, which is why I wanted to bring it to attention. And then we also have $735,000 in contract labor, so that's very vague. It could be pretty much anything. I'd also like to say that that is second highest only to utility collections that uses $311,000 this year in office supplies, which is increasing. It should be going down because we're investing all this money in technology. We should be doing stuff more electronically and efficiently. It shouldn't take as many office supplies. I do have a question that I feel needs to be answered. Page 165 of the book, or 165 online, 163, whichever one it is. It talks about non-departmental for the general fund and industrial development. For this year, it says the estimated amount that we're actually going to spend on industrial development is $700,000, and that next year we're budgeted for $839,000, and that is in addition to the $362,527 that comes out of the water and sewer fund. So that's a lot of extra money into industrial development. Even if you go back and look at page 160.
Thank you. Your
May I
time is
have
set.
just one more minute, please?
Counsel? Okay. No, ma'am. Ms. Uncle, you are next. Good evening, ma'am. You have 4 minutes.
Council members, Madam Mayor, the increase in development fees is astronomical, which in effect will kill development. This does not make sense. Who and how did they come up with these increases? To clarify, developers pay for the design and construction of the infrastructure. The developer pays for the design and construction of roads, water, sanitary sewer, drainage system. They also pay review fees, inspection fees, which are now going to be astronomical. And then the city benefits from the tax revenue after these developments are done at the expense of the developers. It just doesn't make sense. And I'm going to switch the topic to something completely different, animal services. The proposed increases are going to be detrimental to the animals. I know it's very easy to ignore what happens at the animal shelter when we talk about multi-million-dollar developments. It's very easy to ignore how animals are treated. And this is how the shelter staff were able to unjustly and unlawfully euthanize an emotional support animal belonging to a homeless veteran. This is how they are able to unlawfully confiscate and euthanize a dog that never bit anybody, but then allow a known aggressive dog to be adopted from the shelter, and that dog unfortunately had to be euthanized because it was aggressive. What bothers me the most, one of the things that bothers me the most, is that they drag the police into this and they make the police look bad. And unfortunately, I am directly aware of some things that the police are involved in, and I am addressing this directly with the police department, and I do trust them. And I know that they're gonna address all the issues we're gonna discuss. It is unlawful to use the police to intimidate people to gain access to their home without a signed warrant.
I'm just trying to figure out where this is on the agenda.
It's
Let me see what you
no worries,
signed up to
no worries,
speak
I'm good.
on.
I just made a point, that's all right.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Josh Welch. Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Council, good evening. Thanks for having me. Josh Welch. So just coming to talk about some of our development review fees, as y'all probably expected. Wanted to share some frustrations in that, it would have been nice to have actually got a heads up with some of these before the agenda had actually come out. I looked through the presentation that staff had prepared. It said that they had asked for comments and didn't receive any. Well, when you don't let anybody know, it's not surprising you didn't get comments. We've gone through, I've spent lots of time over the last several years through stakeholder meetings and working on a lot of things with the city, trying to help our community, and past president of the Central Texas Home Builder Association, and have shared, we're happy to disseminate and get, spread information throughout the community and to different stakeholders and different groups in the community. All you gotta do is send it to us. We're happy to do that. We've made that very clear. So why none of this ever got sent over to ever look at or get reviewed, to me is baffling and it's frustrating. And looking through, and I didn't go through the fees in a whole lot of detail yet, but in looking through there, some of the current fees that are listed in there as current fees, that's not what I've been paying, I'll tell you that. And then some of those current fees, they came up in a previous meeting that we had with staff, and we asked, well, would you show us if those are your current fees? And they said they are. They're in our ordinances, we just haven't been charging them, okay? And this was in May. So we asked, would you please send us the ordinances and please show us where they're at? I'd like to see them, and I've looked for them myself, and I can't find them. So that being said, so now we're having going from fees that we're told were already in the ordinances that are now potentially doubling and tripling that I don't know where they're even at in the ordinances to begin with. The other thing I wanted to bring up is in there and looking at the presentation is there are benchmark averages from other cities. And don't know where those cities are, don't know if they're suburbs from around Austin or Dallas or Timbuktu, but they're not in Bell County. And, what I would like to ask in a lot of the fees that we're looking at charging and fees that are in there, whether they're fees for development or whether they're fees for animals or XYZ, let's look at some of the other cities here locally in Bell County and see what they're doing. I would highly recommend you to look at Temple. Temple's open for business and they are growth friendly. They're now putting out more permits and got more going than what Killeen did when it was 10, 15 years ago when things were going a little faster over here than what they are now. And the one thing I would, and then two, being on the development side, Killeen has gotten out of the business of doing a lot of the inspections and a lot of the testing themselves. So we hire third-party inspectors and to do a lot of the inspections and a lot of the testing in our neighborhoods and in our subdivisions. We're building and putting in water lines and roads and doing all that. So if we're already hiring a lot of third-party people to do that, I'm not for sure why we need to have a whole lot more fees when we're already paying people to perform a lot of those services. And then the last thing that I will finish up with, right here before my time is up, there is that went dead on me. There's a House bill, I'll tell you the number of it. It is 3492 that goes into effect September the 1st. And it states that cities have to, whatever fees and review fees and things they're charging, have to look at what it's actually costing to do the service or what a third-party entity would charge to do the service. So you can't just come up with, a random fee like a lot of cities do and just try to overburden the fee system to make up for lost revenue somewhere else. So with that, thank you all very much and happy to answer any questions you'll have. Thank you.
Sir, what bill was that?
That was House Bill 3492. I believe it goes into effect September the 1st.
Thank you. There are no questions for you. Mr. Leo Gukheisen. Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Temp, Council, City Manager. I'm here today to talk about two things. Bring my thing here working. The first one is the discussion of the Purple Heart City designation. Honestly, in my time here, I think that would probably be the best thing that this body has done to approve that and to push it forward with the emphasis that this body did with that 75-year project on W.S. Young. These are brave men and women of our armed forces that have sacrificed, and they are well-deserved to have this. So again, I hope that this body will push it as much and as strong, as hard as they did for this 75-year project up on W.S. Young. My second thing is covering the rate increases. Good. I know sometimes I sound like a broken record when I get up here and I talk about disabled veterans. Okay, since I started attending these council meetings almost 10 years ago, everybody up there has said they support the military, they support our veterans, but yet it seems at times that whenever there's a means or ways, it seems like the burden of problems are put on the back of the veterans and disabled veterans, i.e. the tax exempt program. Every year in the budget, it comes up that the biggest chunk is disabled veterans. But I'll talk about that later at a different meeting. My point today is under the aviation fee change, under short-term parking, if y'all approve this item, I feel you're going to be discriminating against disabled veterans, because there are disabled veterans like myself that are 100%. I do not have a handicap parking plate. I have a DV displaying the LOM that I earned, and I have a placard. To say just because you don't have a placard or a license plate with a handicap symbol on it, you don't get to park for free. That's the right that was given to us under the state. The state mandated that. So I don't understand, every time we come up with money problems, it's the disabled veterans that they want to take from or add into. This should not be approved as is. And I hope that someone will address it and have this thing changed, because it is unfair to our disabled veterans here in the city. How often do you use the parking lot? I don't know. I've been there twice in over 13 years, but I'm sure a lot of them use it. And to say, well, if you park here, you're free. You park here, you got to pay. And if you don't have a license plate with the handicap symbol on it, you have to pay. It's not fair. Disabled veterans earn what they get. They sacrifice their family, their friends, and some for their country. They deserve whatever little bit that they can get. We're not asking for a handout. We're just asking for the respect that we deserve and we earn. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing is that the city of Killeen is a Purple Heart city. And the second thing with the parking is short-term and long-term. For a veteran, parking is free if you have the placard and the license plates, which will be up front under the cover. But if you do not have that, you still get it free. You just have to park in the long-term parking. So I am 100% veteran, disabled veteran, and I do understand that was one of my concerns when I spoke with Mr. Wilson, and he explained that to me, that it is free. But if you do have the placard and you have the disabled veteran license, you get to park free under the cover. And you can get a placard, the disabled sticker on the back of your license plate, or the blue one that I have. It has to go through your doctor for approval, and you can take it to DMV and they will give it to you. You have the option of the placard, or you can get it on your license plate. With that being said, and that was just for clarification. Mr. Fornino? Would you please come up, sir? And you have 4 minutes. Yes, sir. The floor is yours. Oh, it's off. It's on, Mr. Bernino.
Okay.
Sorry about
RS,
that.
that's okay. RS 23124, just for clarity, appointing council members to various boards and commissions, does that also apply to committees? Okay.
No, sir.
All right, that was kind of vague, so I just wanted to ask that question on that.
Yes, sir.
With regard to RQ 23009, council investigations, that's kind of vague, but again, this raises the specter. If there's something to be investigated from or by the council, that would almost beg the prospect of bringing up the codified code of ethics. You know, if it's council investigations, I mean, there has to be something other than a city ordinance to simply do that, because in my personal experience, I'm sorry to say, I'm not exactly thrilled with the way you folks investigate yourselves. I mean, not trying to bring up old wounds or anything like that, but I think it's a fair point. I mean, I think we need to discuss and pass with some citizen input, which can be discussed at a town hall, a true back and forth, to actually tie the council and certain city entities, you know, not necessarily personalities, but entities, to make it fair, to where a codified code of ethics to tie everybody to. So then that way, there's a standard of what the tripwire or what the benchmark is to actually conduct an investigation, and why and when. And go back to what Mr. Gukaizen says on the disabled veterans, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, when it comes to being a disabled combat vet, there are people who are disabled from just regular service who were not in a combat arms job and never had a shot fired in anger at them and never had to return one. Okay? There are people that are in that status, but I'm not trying to say that a combat veteran like myself is any better than somebody who may have just, unfortunately got run over by a truck that wasn't paying attention, or, fell out of a tower or something like that, does happen. But when it comes to disabled veterans, there is, I don't know that I have the correct adjective to describe it, but when it comes to the benefits that we get, I mean, the things that we have seen, the things that we have done, the things that we have had to endure at the cost of our bodies and, in some cases, our minds, okay? There's every little thing. I mean, there's no Veterans Day parade in Killeen, okay? I grew up in an area where where such a thing is not uncommon. Okay, we have VFWs, we have American Legions, I get it. I'm not looking to have a parade. I'm not looking for a pat on the back for everything that I do simply because I'm a combat veteran. However, the little things that are in the law, in the state law, federal law, et cetera, every little thing, it seems that we get in recompense for our service, for our sacrifice, those things, it's almost like we're made to feel guilty about it. And I just want the council to consider that any action on that is like, for every little bit that we get, like, for one step forward is 2 steps back, it almost seems. And that's got to end. I mean, I don't know exactly how to describe my experience or other people's experience, but I mean, every little bit that we can get, I mean, we've earned it. I mean, I don't want to break my own arm, pat myself on the back, but for the things that we've done, those little things, it just seems like we're made to feel guilty, like it's a cross to bear. Like, oh, I'm a disabled veteran, I should feel guilty for having this little benefit that somebody doesn't have. Please consider that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we do have a veteran parade on November 11th every year. Gary Purser. Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Hello, Council. Gary Purser of 2901 East Stand Slater. What I'd like to visit about today are these fees And I would like to talk a little bit about the last 4 months where I have visited with some of the council members, and I have put people at the table to try to let y'all see and hear from the builders and the developers, and where y'all can make a more informed decision. So I want to talk about the fees, and we went through a pre-construction meeting the other day for a subdivision, a private job, first one we've ever done in the city of Killeen that I've had to do. We do them for municipal work. And basically what it is, they just want to know who to call, point of contacts, things of that nature, which that's all fine. Well, then we get down to fees, and they talk about, what are they? Well, I'm lost on the fees. They talked about, help me out here a minute. Development fees, no, they called it something else. But anyway, the same thing we're talking about, and I'll think of it here in a minute. But I stopped the pre-construction meeting. I was given this from the city of Killeen, from their engineering department. And I asked them, what are these fees? Inspection fees, that's the word I'm looking for. They were inspection fees. So it's like, what the world is these inspection fees? And they started out at $2,500, and then they went to $5,000, then they went to $10,000. And we've never paid these. And so what are they? And they couldn't tell me. And this is your engineering people, along with your consultant. And I said, I don't even know what they are. So could you explain them to me? Their answer at the end of the day was, we will have to get some clarity, and we'll get back with you when we get clarity. Okay, that's been 2 months. 2 months. I have no clarity. And then I went to your planning, I apologize, I think it's planning department, which is Mr. Revelle. And we had a meeting, and I was dragging city council people there just where they would get exposed to both sides of the argument. And I asked Mr. Revelle, I said, what are these? And he could not answer it. And he said, I'll have to get some clarity, and I'll have to get back with you. But it's in the ordinance. And I said, well, I would like to see the ordinance. Would you be kind enough to send me a copy of the ordinance? 2 months ago, I have not got a copy of the ordinance. And I have not got clarity from his department yet. And then, as of yesterday, I understand that we're talking about tremendous fees coming up now. Nobody told us. We've been talking for 3 or 4 months. I have taken nearly every council member, 1 or 2 at a time, to try to educate these people on these issues. And to this day, we do not have, even one of the council members asked for the ordinance 2 months ago. That council member has not got that ordinance today. That's not acceptable. And to talk about the fees, they're talking about $6,500 per acre. For what? I just did a 100-acre subdivision. That math is $650,000. What are we doing? And nobody talks to us. Nobody gives us nothing. They tell us one day before a meeting, and we try to come and talk to y'all in 4 minutes. That's not acceptable. That's absurd. And all we're asking for
Sir?
is to have time.
Your time is up.
Well, I'd like some more time.
If the council will grant you 1 minute. Council? Yes. Sir, they said yes. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. So the problem is, there has to be a relationship, there has to be a partnership, there has to be communication, and we are not the enemy, and we don't want to be the enemy. We ask for things, we should be able to at least be told of something, not one day before we come up here and we're talking about, and they bring it to y'all, and I don't know how long y'all have known about it, but we're looking at $600,000 fees, and nobody knows nothing. That's not acceptable. And that needs to be stopped, and it needs to be addressed, and y'all the 7 council members, y'all are the boss. And y'all can change some things. I can't change it. but y'all can change it. And that's what we're asking for. We're asking to listen to us, and then y'all make your own decision. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Dylan Whitis. And if anyone else that have come in would like to speak on citizen comments, please sign up right now before we move on. If not, it will be a public hearing on these items next week.
Hi, I
Hey,
guess.
sir, how are you?
Oh, sorry. Speaking on the proposed rate increases, just like the people who were before me, I'm also a developer in the area. I think the proposed rate increases are huge. I mean, I hope that it was a typo the way it was printed. Like you said, $6,500 an acre is a humongous number. And, for people like us, I mean, we do decently large subdivisions. That's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And at the end of the day, I mean, you hear it on the news, you look everywhere, and we're having a housing crisis right now, and prices are still skyrocketing. They're saying, housing prices are still staying stable and they should be dropping. Now, developers and builders are all having to eat the profits or eat the change. Anything that's going through, we're having to eat some of those costs, and it's not sustainable. In the city of Killeen, we haven't had a subdivision that's actually that's had any of the ordinances that were passed in the last year. None of those have actually gone into effect yet in any of these subdivisions that are coming up. And again, that's not that one, he just said $650,000 for a 100-acre subdivision. That same subdivision with the ordinances that were just passed, that's over $1 million in just those ordinances that were just passed. We were talking $1,250, whatever it is, just for park dedication fees. That's a lot of money, and that's money that it comes partially out of us, but eventually goes to whoever's buying that house. And, I don't think it's recognized enough how big the home building industry is in Killeen, or how big it could be. I mean, last year, we're at less than 500 single-family permits in Killeen. And in 2008, we're at 1,200. If you say that's a $250,000 house is your bare minimum house now, you can't really find a house for less than that. That's over $250 million in 2008. And 500, that's, less than half of that. That's a huge taxable value that just got lost. And a lot of that was due to, we can't get anything out. We can't, we have all these new fees. People would rather go somewhere else and spend that same or less money to go live in Georgetown or go live somewhere else. And we want to build quality subdivisions, but we can't do it if there's no buyers for those lots. So it's definitely something that all these rate increases we need to really think about. And if that's not necessarily something that's going directly to us, and maybe we're fronting it in the beginning, but it's something that goes to whoever's buying the house in the end. And again, going back to the House bill that was just passed too, that Josh just mentioned, it has to be equitable to what y'all are actually doing. It can't be a money grab to pay for something else, which if that was true and that wasn't just a typo, there's absolutely no way that someone's spending $650,000 to review some plans for a 100-acre subdivision. It's maybe, I don't know, 5% of that, if that. But, I think it's just something that the council and Ms. Mayor need to think about and spend a little bit of time to review it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gabriel Mutabo. Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes.
That will have to be close enough. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't like to speak on things unless I really believe on what I'm about to speak about. The reality is the city of Killeen needs more affordable housing. Whenever you raise the rates on because they're the big old scary developers, right, that have gajillions of dollars. Well, the reality is the city of Killeen needs more affordable housing. We need to have more houses. Prices are artificially high because there's not enough to go around. And so I know that the city, is in the budget season, and we need to figure out where we, are going to get the money to pay for some of these things. A thought would be, is finding the revenues, maybe from, like the golf course, right? What is the city of Killeen doing with a golf course, and we're in the middle of a drought? And so, I am I sell real estate. That's what I do for a living. And so, and my niche market is first-time home buyers. And so it's funny because I go to Temple and I see the same exact house from one of the local builders here, the same exact house. And this is really the truth. This is really the truth. $40,000 less or $20,000 or $30,000 less. So, you know, I'm not going to badger you. I'm not going to beat you guys up or anything like that. But, you know, I think that we have to think about, you know, every time you raise the cost of a home or a development, in economics, the truth is you're not really passing the bill to, you know, the developer per se. They're just going to raise the price on the house, and I know most of you guys know that. So, you know, I would just caution the council with those incremental fees, because it really is the truth. It really just gets passed down to the consumer. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will have discussion. Did I miss anyone before we move forward? We will now have discussion items for a regular city council meeting of August 8, 2023. And council, I would like to, yeah, it's not this time yet. I'm sorry. Thank you. I would like to move DS-23-076. Discussion, consider Purple Heart City destination, and DS-23-077, discuss status of Station 42 apartment complex up front. To speak on it next.
Second.
You okay with that? So it's a motion from you, Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Yes, ma'am.
So we have a motion by Councilwoman Gonzalez and a second by Councilmember Board. All in favor? Show of hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 7-0, motion of direction on that. So with that being said, Mr. Marty, Madam Secretary. Yeah. Well, she have to let us see it first. Mr. Marty, one moment, please. Madam Secretary, DS-23-076.
Discuss and consider Purple Heart City designation.
All right. Mr. Marty, Councilwoman Gonzalez would like to say something before you speak.
So again, I just wanted to say thank you to each of you for your dedication and your service. It's truly an honor to have you all here in our chambers today. I did bring this item forward. The city of Killeen is actually a Purple Heart City already. We already have that designation. However, in the past, we can improve our ability to honor our veterans, past and present, and then, of course, future. I think it's very important that you're here, and I'd love for you to share, you know, a little bit about the Purple Heart, what it really means, and how we can honor those who have received that designation.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Martinez, and to Purple Heart crew. Just wave your hand there, everyone. Thank you for your service and commitment, Mr. Marty.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you
show is
very much,
yours.
Madam Mayor and City Council. Thank you very much for having me here. First of all, you are a Purple Heart City. A plaque was given to the city a couple of years ago designating the city of Killeen as a Purple Heart City. Now, what do we do in Purple Heart? Now, I'm not going to go into the whole thing as Purple Heart City or the medal itself. However, each of you should have a Purple Heart, or I'm sorry, a purple folder in there that gives you the whole history of the Purple Heart, including how it started it was designated Purple Heart in 1782, all the way to the present. Now, if I asked you right now, when did the Marines or the Department of the Navy get issued the Purple Heart? When were they authorized to issue the Purple Heart? You would probably say you don't know, which is very true. You probably don't know that it started out as a badge of military merit. You probably don't know that. You probably thought it was by Congress and everything else. Yes, in 1932, it was designated at that particular time. So the history that you've got right there in front of you, read it good, get to know it, so that if you ever get asked about it, Councilwoman Gonzalez, you say that your father was a Purple Heart recipient. Now you're going to learn a little bit more about it. What can you do? How can you move? All right. First of all, it is a Purple Heart city, and as such, we do have some functions going on. I have requested a proclamation for the 7th of August coming up, which I believe is next Tuesday, the 7th of August, proclamation for, was it Monday? I'm sorry, it's Monday, the 7th of August, is when the Purple Heart was established originally. And I am asking for a proclamation for that day. However, I'm also at the very same time, I'm asking, or the council here, we would like, even though it would be dated the 7th of August, if we could receive it by the 4th, this coming Friday. Now, I know it's real fast and everything, due to the fact that a gathering of the chapter members, the local chapter members, are having a get-together at the Charlie Green Hall. If you don't know, Charlie Green Hall located in Harker Heights. Charlie Green Hall, Charlie Green actually was a Purple Heart recipient. So we are having our little get-together, our chapter, and that's where we meet also. A good get-together. I'm also inviting the council members here. If you'd like to stop by, we're starting at 10:30 and we're going to finish at 2 o'clock. Now, as a city, we do have, there are some other activities that will be going on after that get-together that we have. The riders that we do have are going to start in Belton, and they're going to go all the way to the VFW in Kempner on Sunday, riding the bike. This is our Purple Heart riders. So how can you really say, hey, about Purple Heart itself? You've got the information in front of you. Purple Heart cities usually, as a rule, throughout the United States, they usually put light their lights up in the evening as purple.
Yes, well, Mr. Marty, while the president is coming up, I'm not a Purple Heart recipient, but I am an honorary member, Elijah and I. And your proclamation is already completed. I already signed it, and you should be receiving it from Mrs. Ford for this weekend.
Okay.
And the Madam President would like to say something,
Okay.
Mr. Marty.
Yes, ma'am.
You getting us bad information.
Oh, okay.
Madam Mayor, council members, so I'm going to give you the exact dates. On the 5th, which will be Saturday, we will be having our luncheon, which is going to honor the Purple Heart recipients. During this time, we'll provide lunch, and we'll provide a few members with Quilts of Valor. That's on the 5th between 10 and 1.
Yes.
Now, after the 10 to 1, we have a 3 o'clock event that will be at Silver Wings. This event will have... It's right here in Killeen. So we're doing an event in Harker Heights, plus one in Killeen. So I know y'all wanted to do a little bit more because now you know that you're a Purple Heart city, but you didn't have enough time to put it together. But we already set something up. We have Silver Wings because we partner with Silver Wings. That day we will be making them a Purple Heart bar? Purple Heart entity. Yeah, it'll be a Purple Heart entity because they work well with us every year. So we're going to designate them a Purple Heart entity. So that event starts at 3. That'll be from 3 until there'll be bands and a large celebration. And then on Sunday, the 6th of August, we're doing a Purple Heart Riders plus other military organizations that have their motorcycle groups because they are not clubs. All the veteran motorcycle riders are considered groups instead of the rugged, motorcycle riders. They are veterans and they actually believe in doing what's right. So we'll have a Purple Heart ride. This year we decided not to do it on August the 7th because it's a Monday and so everything would have been late in the afternoon. So we're doing a Purple Heart weekend to cover out August the 7th. So those are the events we have. We'll make sure that you get flyers and everything, but I wanted to make sure that y'all had the correct time and you know what was going on. So me as the commander of the local organization and the state will be here doing a lot of things to make sure that everybody in Bell County and surrounding counties know that, yes, you are a Purple Heart entity, but you actually support what we do.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam.
Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm in the same VFW with Comrade Brown. I just want to point out to everyone that we have the first female commander of the state Purple Heart
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes, madam, and I would like to make a motion of direction for next year possibly. When I was looking around, there's a lot of cities that are Purple Heart cities that have that designation. They do something really special, usually in their downtown areas, but they light up purple, or they have some purple flags, or just something that really honors our recipients of this designation on that August 7th. And so I would like to make a motion of direction just to put it in consideration as to what we could possibly do for our recipients here in Killeen on August 7th of next year.
So are you asking the staff to come up with something with that motion of direction? Because it's just open.
I would like to make a motion, madam, to look at some ways that we can honor our Purple Heart recipients. Yes, ma'am.
A second.
Councilmember Adams.
Just ringing in a second.
That's it. No one else have anything to say? The motion of direction is for staff to look at ways that we, the city of Killeen, can honor our Purple Heart recipients. All in favor of the motion of it was by Councilwoman Gonzalez and second by Councilmember Boyd. I apologize, Madam Secretary. Adams. All in favor, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Marty, and thank you all for everything you do.
Decide to do something, whatever you decide in recognizing Purple Heart Day, let us know so that we can actually give you some information as helping you out.
To what you would like. That did
Yes.
make sense. Okay, got it. All right, so I will come to you, because I see you on Saturday, and I will get the information from you, and I'll bring it back to the city. All right, thank you, sir, because I want to do honor where honor is due, and not just do anything that goes against your rules. All right. Yes, sir. Y'all enjoy yourself, and thank you all for stopping by. Madam Secretary, we're now moving to DS-23-077.
Discuss status of Station 42 apartment complex.
Thank you. Mr. Kagan, Mr. White is on? Oh, he's on. Good evening, Mr. White. How are you?
Quick update here. We are making great progress at the site.
Sir,
Excuse me, hey, Parker, could you start over? We had your volume turned down. We just now started hearing you.
Oh.
Thank you.
All right. Great. Yeah, just saying, good evening, council. I appreciate the opportunity to give a quick update. We've made some strong progress at the site and are fully into our pre-leasing efforts with about 35 leases done so far. We're expecting to have our first move-ins September 8th. We will have a grand opening sometime in the fall, which we will coordinate with the council and the PFC board. And we are expecting substantial completion of the entire project in late spring, about May 2024.
Is that it, Mr. White?
Yes, Ms. Mayor.
I'm sorry, did you say we will complete construction in spring?
I'm sorry.
What day are we completing construction and when residents can move in?
We should have the first residents moving in September 8th of this year, with completion of the entire project in late spring of 2024.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Adams?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I went by there today, just as a chance visit, and your staff there gave me a tour, and I can attest to what Mr. White just spoke of. And actually, there were residents there filling out preparing to move in. And I believe you already have one building almost ready in the front. I think that's number 2. But I like the work that you guys have done so far. I'll be looking forward for those payments as well.
And we did just share the latest financial projections with Judas from the finance department. I'm glad you're able to stop by, and we hope to have an event once more of the building is complete where the entire council and anyone in the city that's interested can come by and take a look.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes, sir. Parker, you said that the move-ins start as early as September 8th. Do you have an estimate on your percentage of anticipated occupancy at this point?
Yes, give me 1 second. So I believe we currently have approximately 10% of the building leased. That September 8th date, we will be completing, I don't have it in front of me, I believe it's about 80 units, and it will more or less be every 2 months getting approximately another 80 units to come online. I can pull up our current schedule to share with council if that's something you guys are interested in.
Yes, sir. Mr. Cagle?
I was just going to remind you, while that number sounds low, it's because there are not many completed units. So if we can get the data, we can tell you what the percent of units that are about to be completed, because none of them are completed yet. This is pre-leasing.
Right, and you got to keep in mind these are leases being signed when the tenant can't see their actual unit or any of the completed amenities. So we're feeling very strong about where we're currently at, given that we're over a month away from actually having units moving ready.
Councilmember Adams, are you finished?
I'm done.
Councilwoman Gonzalez, are you finished? Will you take off your clicker if you don't mind, please, ma'am? Thank you. It won't, okay. Councilmember Sagara.
Thank you, Mayor. And Mr. White, I don't know if it's intentional. We can't see you on the screen there, so I don't know if that's how you wanted it.
Now, I apologize. I was having difficulties with my computer's audio, so I'm joining on the now.
Okay. But just a couple of questions. I know you talk about the completion, and I know that rentals work a little bit different because, a lot of people that are looking for a place to rent, it's more of an immediate thing. So a lot of times you don't get people that say, I want a rental and I'm going to wait, till September. But with that note, I don't know if this is something you're able to tell us, but do you know how many leases have been submitted or signed so far?
We have 36 that have been signed. Trying to pull up how many have been submitted, but we've got 36 current signed leases.
Oh, that's good. And then the other question,
yeah, if you're
36?
All right, go ahead. Yes.
That's awesome. That's great. And then the other thing is, can you explain a little bit more about that process? I had a couple of people ask me about that, and some of them are because they've heard, when they hear low income, they think it's a certain price point, and some of them actually do qualify for it. But the question that they had is the qualifying process, because being older, they had a hard time with the website. So can you explain, and maybe it's a plug here also to market and maybe get more interest, but can you talk about that process if somebody's interested in renting a place? How do they go about that?
Sure, and that's great feedback to know that our website's not working properly. That's something we'll definitely take a look at. If someone's interested in the property, the easiest way would be to stop by and speak to someone on site. The more convenient option would be to just make a call to the property and discuss with them. We should have multiple people on staff that can walk the individual through the qualification process. There should be a working online portal. If it's hard to use, we'll be certain to go and take a look at that and make sure it's accessible to the community.
I think that was a great answer because if you say you got somebody on site, that's exactly what they need. Is there somebody there currently, or is there a time period then they're going to have somebody there where they can go? Because they wanted to come to my office and I have nothing to do. I'm just going to look on a website. So instead of coming to my office, I can direct them to somebody there that's on site. I think that's 100% better.
Yeah, we've installed Carter Ben, who's going to be leading the management at the property, who is currently on site.
Awesome. Is he got certain hours that he's there?
I would assume so. I need to check and get exactly what those are. So I can follow up with you and put you in touch with him, who's going to be the best possible resource for guiding tenants the correct direction.
Yeah, no, that'd be great because they can just kind of direct them to there. That's perfect. So I appreciate that. And I think that'll help maybe get you some more people there.
That would be fantastic.
Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Cobb.
Sir, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the affordability for those apartments for all persons. Yesterday, a new teacher came, and she came to me and she said, Mrs. Cobb, I can't live there. I said, what do you mean you can't live there? She said, my salary is $57,000 a year. The price it is going to take for me to get into that apartment will not allow me there. She moved to Cole. I felt really bad when she showed me that. I'm afraid for those persons who are of low income classes and they're being able to afford to be there. How many of those leases that you've received have been from low income families?
I guess it would be depending on where you define low income, and it's always tragic when someone's unable to afford to live in a certain place. And there are different government programs that are there to target deeper levels of affordability.
Okay.
Where we're targeting this project has that 80% AMI, which can sometimes lead to a rent higher than would be expected, but it's what allows us to build this project without government funds being injected into it and to be able to produce cash payments to the city.
So we can use a WIC voucher, we can use housing vouchers, we can use indigent care vouchers. I just need this to be said so that the constituents of the city of Killeen know that when they go over to that apartment to be approved to stay in an apartment, that it's acceptable.
What was the question?
I just would like to know what government funding can be used to go into those apartments.
I would have to double check to clarify. I believe all forms of vouchers are welcomed, but I will add that on the list to follow up on, and I'll make sure to get the hours we're on site as well as clarifying which vouchers are accepted.
Super. I just want to ensure that in those wonderful apartments that I've visited, that everyone has an opportunity. Not a certain income bracket, but everyone. Thank you, sir.
I do know last time we did speak the housing voucher when we was starting this process, that it could be used to move into those apartments. And that was one of the concerns that this council had, that if we're going to have an apartment that we're involved in, the PFC, that we wanted to make sure that our residents had the opportunity to live there. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just had a question in relation to the construction. The 3 acres at the corner of Terrace and W.S. Young, that the city owns has a lot of dirt on it. And I was wondering, or I had the question of, when might that be removed once construction is done? Anything that's left over?
I would expect that to be cleared before we get our final CO, which again would be projected to be late spring of 2024. I'll confirm with our construction team on those dates, but generally speaking, those things are taken away before final completion.
Thank you.
Councilmember Adams, this is your last time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When I spoke with your manager, he mentioned that there was a cap, the high-end cap for a certain percentage of the residences. I think that would address Councilmember Cobb's issue, the $1,500 a month. But if you make too much money, you can't qualify, but you have to be below that to qualify. Is that correct in what he was saying, or if you clarify or fix it?
That's correct. So it's the PFC program. 51% of the units are designated for those making less than 80% of the area median income. So if you make more than that mark, you would not be able to lease one of those units and would only be able to lease one of the 49% that are open market rate units.
Oh, thank you.
And sir, that's all the questions. The only thing that I was talking to Mr. Cagle about is a ribbon cutting. Do you have a recommended date? If so, could you please send it to him?
We will. We are coordinating internally just because we want to make sure that the clubhouse, pool, and all the amenities are ready so that we can really do the ribbon cutting right. But myself and our marketing team will be in touch with the city to coordinate that date.
All right. Well, Mr. White, we thank you for zooming in and continue to move forward and do great things. We're looking forward for September the 8th.
I appreciate it, and I'll make sure the camera's working next time.
Yes, sir. Take care. Bye. All right, we'll get back on track with our minutes. Madam Secretary.
LMN 23017, consider minutes of regular city council meeting of July 11th, 2023.
Resolutions, council, you have 2 times to speak each for 5 minutes. Madam Secretary.
RS 23121, consider a memorandum resolution approving the Metro Ethernet services contract with Blue Plains Technology in an amount not to exceed $61,500 annually.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Resso.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you is the renewal of our Metropolitan Ethernet services. So there are 6 locations that require Metro Ethernet services, and those locations are our transfer station, our fire station number 8, our water and sewer complex, which includes fire station 5, our IT building, our animal control building, and the branch library. The current monthly cost is $5,920, and the renewal cost will be $5,125. The cost savings is $795 per month for $9,540 annually. I also want to include that we're actually doubling the speed at every location. So if one was at 50 meg, we're taking it to 100 meg. If it was at 200 meg, we're jumping it to 400 meg. So with the savings, we're also going to be getting increased speeds to our locations. The total cost of the renewal agreement over 3 years is $184,500. Again, our alternatives is not to renew agreement for Ethernet services, which would cause an interruption of connectivity to these 6 locations, or to renew the Ethernet services agreement, which allows the network connectivity to these 6 locations. And our recommendation to the City Council is authorize the city manager or designee to renew the Ethernet service agreement with Blue Plains Technology using the Interlocal Purchasing System Contract 220105, and that the city manager or designee be expressly authorized to execute any and all change orders with the amount set by state and local law. And I am available for questions at this time.
Thank you, sir. There are no questions for you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
RS 23-122, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the purchase of the replacement stage at the Killeen Civic and Conference Center from Stage Right in the amount of $90,028.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good evening, Ms. McNair.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, and Mr. Cagle. I'm here to present the presentation for the stage replacement at the Killeen Civic and Conference Center. I'm still learning my acronyms, so I won't stumble over it tonight. Let's see. So the stage at the KC3, as it's called by the staff, is 21 years old, is original to the building, and many of the parts are at their end, the end of their useful life. The inserts are wearing down, and with repeated use, some welds have begun to crack, and back rails have become worn and are very difficult to attach to the stage. This poses a safety hazard and concern for the customers and also the staff who have to assemble the said stage. Since the current stage is no longer produced, a complete stage replacement is actually the only option that we have at this time, and it will allow us to continue to offer safe, clean, and professional stage for the customers. This replacement was included in the fiscal year 2023 budget as a decision package. We received 3 quotes, one from Stage Right for $90,028, Sitco $91,473, and Mighty Light for $104,287. Staff evaluated all the quotes and found Stage Right to be the most responsive and below the estimated cost of the replacement as budgeted for fiscal year '23. These are just some pictures of the unit, and then fully assembled, the stage will be 1,280 square feet. Because these are separate units, we are able to assemble multiple stage if the venue or the lessee requires it or would find it useful for them. Alternatives are to not approve the purchase of a replacement stage, approve the purchase of a replacement stage from Stage Right in the amount of $90,028, or approve the purchase of a replacement stage from a different vendor. Staff recommends awarding the purchase of the replacement to Stage Right in the amount of the $90,028. And I'm available for questions.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. You mentioned in the PowerPoint that the replacement was included in FY 2023 budget as a decision package.
Yes.
Can you clarify on that? Does that mean money is budgeted or wasn't budgeted, or?
I'll do that.
Thank
It's
you.
not fair. So in our process, in your base budget, we try to put everything, it's not always there, to put everything in your base budget to keep the level of service the same. And so typically, an enhancement or a package would be something new, but we've even gone back and major equipment replacements, that's in a package, and it's looked at after we look at the base budget. So, and that was, after their base budget was approved, that's one of the enhancements that was approved. But the money's there.
Gotcha, perfect, thank you.
There are no, Councilmember Solomon.
If approved, what would become of the old stage? Could we sell it?
We can look into selling it. I know that there are some, and I don't want to overspeak as far as what Killeen's doing, but there are some opportunities for local governments to sell equipment, furnishings, and the like on an online platform, or find someone suitable that may even want to take it as a donation possibly.
We'll try to auction it first, and then if we don't get buyers, it probably has some value in the metal, in junk metal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
RS 23-123, consider a resolution finding that Encore's Electric's application to increase rates within the city should be denied, authorizing participation with the steering committee of cities served by Encore, and finding that the city's reasonable rate case expenses shall be reimbursed by Encore Electric.
Thank you. Attorney Clements, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, mayors and the city council.
This is the Encore rate application case. I want to talk and give you a little bit of background. Cities exercise original jurisdiction over the level of electric rates charged within their boundaries. Killeen is a member of the steering committee of cities served by Encore, along with 168 other cities. This particular case, Encore filed an application on June 30th of this year seeking to increase distribution revenues by $152.78 million and to update its mobile generation rider in the amount of $1.07 million. And I had to look this up just in case y'all need that information as well. Mobile generation rider is related to mobile generators that are used in temporary situations when we have major outages across the state. This was approved in 2021 to have these mobile generators, and it's a rider along with the tariff. So the impact of these increases, both of these increases on average residential customer would be about $2.44 per month. So the alternatives are to not adopt the resolution, which would result in Encore's proposed increased rates taking effect, or to adopt the resolution, finding that Encore's application to change rates should be denied, authorize participation with the steering committee, and find that reasonable rate case expenses should be reimbursed by Encore. So denying the rates now gives the steering committee and the city as a part of the steering committee an opportunity to review the 1,000+ page document that Encore filed that justifies what they think that these rates should be increased at this amount. And so the steering committee would review this with experts and be able to determine if these increases are justified, if they're in compliance with the regulations, and if any adjustments should be made and these increases shouldn't take place. So the staff is recommending adoption of the resolution, finding that the application should be denied at this time, authorize participation with the steering committee, and find the reasonable rate case expenses should be reimbursed by Encore. I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. There are no questions for you. Thank you. Thank you. Madam Secretary.
RS 23-124, consider a memorandum resolution appointing council members to various boards and commissions.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. So, council, the way this is going to work, let me get my stuff. So the order that for council member appointments to boards and commission, it goes your tenure/votes, governor standards and expectations, section 3-10F. Are there any questions before we get started? So the tenure come first / the votes. This is something that this council put into place in the governor's standards and expectations, section 3-10F. So the order it would go in, according to the governor's standards, the mayor has the first choice of 3 boards and commission. Then the order of the council member by tenure first, followed by the number of votes. If tenure is the same, council members select 1 board / commission at a time, like one at a time, so it'll be a round robin. Move on to the next person in order, then repeats until all the positions are filled. Okay? So, Mr. Cagle, who is writing everything down? Oh, you can pick up this. So just to go over the boards, do you have one, Mr. Cagle? You can have this one once I read it. No, but I can give you this back once well, you can read them. You can just read all the different boards before we can get started.
You want me to go ahead and read the current appointments?
No, ma'am. No, sir. I'm sorry, the boards, because all of them are clear because we have 2 new members. So everyone gets to pick where they want to go.
Oh, we just...
Yes, sir. Because Councilmember Solomon, I wanted him to know all the boards, and I know Councilmember Adams already know them.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
So we have the audit committee, which there are 3 positions, but one, the mayor's required by the ordinance to be on that one, so there's two others.
Mr. Cagle?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you, but for the audit committee, appointments were made June 27th, 2023, and council members Ramon Alvarez and Michael Boyd were selected to serve on that committee.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. He was just going over the
Sure.
different committees, that's all. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
The Crime Solution Committee has one council member. Hill Country Transit, one council member. The Clean Economic Development Corporation, 3 council members. Colleen Sister Cities, 4 council members. The Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 2, 3 council members. Central Texas Council of Governments, there's 1 council member and 1 alternate council member. Development District Board of Central Texas, there's 1 council member. The Transportation Planning Committee, or K-TEMPO, there are, let me make sure I get this right, there are 3 council members. The Animal Advisory Committee, 2 council members. Board of Adjustment Construction, 2 council members. Board of Adjustment Fire Prevention Code, there are 2 council members. Board of Adjustment Aviation, there's 2 council members. Board of Adjustment Zoning, 2 council members. Senior Citizens Advisory Board, 2 council members. And the Bell County Health District, 2 council members.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. And this is the order. Mayor Pro Tem, Councilwoman Gonzalez, Councilmember Board, Councilmember Sagara, Councilmember Alvarez, Councilmember Solomon, and Councilmember Adams. And this is based on, according to the governor's standards and expectations, Section 3-10F. It is based on the tenure / the votes that you received during your election. Are you ready, Mr. Cagle?
Yes, ma'am. I actually have a question.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm a stickler for procedure, and I'm trying to get clarity on why we don't have the names of former council or council members in existing committees on the presentation. Every time this presentation was made in the past, we're able to reference that to see who's on these committees. We don't have the information there, nor we have here. Outside of that, I'm asking every council member, hey, what committee are you on? So, procedure.
Are you finished, Councilmember Boyd? The reason that they're not up there is no particular reason. It's just that everyone going to redo it again. So even if we do have the names up there, it's not going to make a difference.
But again, it's procedure. We typically always keep that same system in place. And
Okay, Mr.
there's no clarity why it changed.
Could you, Attorney Clemens, send them the email on all the ones with the names on there? Do you have them? If so, could you send it to him right now?
At this point, I'm not going to request them. I'm just pointing out that if we're going to change procedure, that should be communicated to the council, even something small like that on the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, and like I stated, and I'm sorry if I offended you in any kind of way, because that was not my intent to offend you, but for the public notice, everyone going to get on a different committee anyway, if they choose to, if they don't. It was just simple to me. So if I offended you, Councilmember Boyd, that was not my intent.
I'm not offended,
to
it's procedure.
overstep the, I'm talking, please don't interrupt me, because I did not interrupt you. Thank you. That was, please, so just go ahead on.
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the only reason I did it. Are you ready, Mr. Cagle?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. My 3 are KEDC, Central Texas Council of Government, and the TERS. Mayor Pro Tem?
I am choosing the Senior Citizen Board.
You can only get one at a time.
Okay.
So senior citizen, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilwoman Gonzalez?
KEDC.
Councilmember Boyd?
KDC.
Councilmember Sagara?
I'm good. Like last time, I don't think I need to be on it. The only thing that I would pick, I know that the council had, on the request of the Sitcog Board, that's special because I'm on the executive committee, and that's the only thing that I request.
Okay.
And that's the only thing I want to be on. Anything else, I'll bypass everything else.
You did that last year. So you bypassed, you just want one. Okay. So I will skip over you the next round.
So just to clarify, that doesn't take the SitCog or the alternate? That's
No,
an additional position?
That's an additional, so you can still have the 2 seats there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So following protocol, you have the option to select 3, and you choose not to do that? Okay. All right.
Gives opportunity for others.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Do the tax increment reinvestment zone number 2.
Councilmember Solomon?
The Senior Citizen Advisory Board.
Councilmember Adams?
Crime Solutions Committee.
Mayor Pro Tem?
The Board of Adjustment Airport.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Tax increment reinvestment zone.
Councilmember Boyd?
How many council members do we have for the tax increment investment zone at this point? Is it the 3?
1, 2. There's only 2.
What is the final number? Is 2?
3.
There are 3.
I'll select TERS 2.
I have that, there are 3 selections made.
Who are they?
That's what I was trying to clear.
The mayor.
Mayor,
Oh,
Mr. Alvarez,
Ramon.
and Ms. Gonzalez.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Gotcha, thank you for that. We'll do Development District of Central Texas.
What did he say?
Development District of Central Texas.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So you don't want to do it. Councilmember Alvarez?
Thank you, Mayor. Transportation Planning Committee, K-Tempo.
Councilmember Solomon?
You said KDC was filled.
Yes, sir. We have Boyd and Gonzalez and me.
Then let me do the Board of Adjustment Fire Prevention.
Councilmember Adams?
K-Tempo.
Mayor Pro Tem?
The Audit Committee.
But they already have the members on the audit committee.
I'm good.
So you don't want anything else?
Nothing.
Okay, that's not protocol, you want to just, okay. All right, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm going to take you and Councilmember Sagara. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Bell County Health.
That's a good one. Councilmember Boyd.
the Hill Country Transit District, do we already select someone on that one?
Nobody on that one.
I'll pass on that one then. I'm on 3 committees at this point, so I'll let the rest of those fill and whatever's left
So
over.
you don't want to anymore?
At this point, no, ma'am.
Okay. So we have Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Board and Councilmember Sakara do not want to select anymore. So that goes to Councilmember Alvarez.
Board of Adjustment Construction.
Councilmember Solomon?
Let me have a question. On this Crime Solution Committee, is that active? Is that?
I mean, right now, they haven't been meeting because they haven't had quorums, but it's still on there. And the only way it goes away, the council will have to vote to remove it as one of the boards. But we have Councilmember Adams is over it. He signed up to be in charge of it.
Oh, he did?
So
Okay.
that's not available.
Okay, what about Hill Country is not available?
Well, the Hill Country, sometimes they meet in Belton. It's very important, and it is available. You have a say on the HOP, on transportation, the bus. Is that, okay.
I'll take it.
Councilmember Adams?
I'll take the second seat on Hill Country.
There is no second seat.
It's not? Okay, just one.
No, sir.
Got it. Then, I'll do the SICOG as the alternate.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Can we confirm if there's still an opening on K-Tempo?
Sure, man. I think it is.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you want that one?
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Board of Adjustment Zoning.
Councilmember Solomon? You don't want any more?
No, I need to see what's up. No, I'm good. No, that's good.
Councilmember Adams?
Sister cities.
All right. Councilmember Gonzalez, you done? Councilmember Adams? Councilmember Adams?
I'll go back to the Health District too.
Hill Country?
No, Health District. That's 5.
So Councilmember Adams, do you want another one?
I'm at 5 now, Madam Mayor.
Okay, what else do
But
we
what's
have?
available now, if we could?
Let me see what else we have. Do we, oh, no, Animal Advisory Committee. I was gonna help y'all out, but let me keep on moving. I don't mean no disrespect, I just, yes, Councilmember Adams, do you want,
I was on that before, so I'll be one of them.
you'll be one?
Yeah.
Okay. So Councilmember Adams. Oh, I put him in there. So everything is taken except the Board of, do you want to be on that?
Is it Board of Construction?
No, the animal advisory, do you? Okay, so we have. Okay. So we have the Board of Adjustment zoning. Anyone? I serve with you, Mr. Everest, on that one. Okay. We have the Board of Adjustment Aviation. Anyone? I serve with you, Councilwoman Cobb, on that one. I don't work, so I have the time. So we have Board of Adjustment Fire Prevention Code. Anyone? Yes, sir, you are. We have Board of Adjustment Construction. We have, let me make sure. Okay, so we have one opening on the Animal Advisory Committee, and we have two openings on the Colleen Sister Cities. And last time, Sagara and Alvarez served on it. And now we only have, I need a ex officio. I'm supposed to be on there. Would you like to serve on there, that committee? The Colleen Sister City.
Oh, I can do Sister Cities.
Okay. We have one more opening. All right. Because you just took another one. You've been taking them, I don't think you realize that.
I have 4.
All right, so we have one left, and I need someone to volunteer if possible. The Animal Advisory Committee. Adams, board. Councilmember Sagara, are you available for that one? Oh, okay. Well, that's just an open spot. If anyone, Councilmember Boyd, did you turn your head and roll your eyes at me? Are you interested? Okay. Well, it is available for one of our council members. Okay. Mr. Kager, here you go. Could you read them off from Madam
Mayor,
Secretary?
Just a quick question of clarity. So in February, we stood up the Youth Service Committee.
It's not on there.
It wasn't on there.
Yeah, we didn't put that on there, so, okay.
If I can, I
Yes,
believe
you can.
it would be appropriate to go ahead because we did already make those appointments, but yes, Councilmember Adams was appointed in February, but then he was not a council member, and so it would be appropriate to go ahead and fill that vacancy.
Okay, so I will start.
One.
No. Okay, so we'll start with Council, Mayor Pro Tem, yes or no, to serve on the youth? Councilwoman Gonzalez? Councilmember Boyd? Yes. Councilmember Boyd? It was, so I thought it was 3.
It was 3, but the other 2 are still, do you have those listed? I know they're not listed on this, but do you have the advisory commission?
Right. We all had a list from last year, everybody that was serving, and I see what you're saying, so it's really 1. So it
Yes.
is 1. So Councilmember Boyd has that position. All right. Now with that being said, we're going to move forward because we have other items that we must get to. Madam Secretary, public hearing.
PH 23044, hold a public hearing on proposed rate increases for FY 2024 to be effective October 1st, 2023.
Madam Secretary?
Yes.
Well, did you do PH-23-00044?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The public hearing will be held August the 8th, 2023. Council, you have 5 minutes to speak, 2 times each. Welcome back, Mrs. Drake.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the presentation for the rate increases for FY24 for the public hearing for next week. So earlier this year, the departments benchmarked their fees with our peer cities. And our peer cities are City of Abilene, Amarillo, Beaumont, Denton, Garland, Grand Prairie, Lubbock, Mesquite, Odessa, Round Rock, and Waco. Those are 11 that we use that are comparable by either demographics, population, or size. And then we have 4 others that we compare to that are local: City of Belton, Coppers Cove, Harker Heights, and Temple. So there are 15 in total. So then our proposed fees were published and posted on the city's website on March 31st of 2023. And then I believe an alert was sent out. We are still trying to confirm that with communications. There was a comment period from April 1st to the 30th, and no comments were received. So our city charter requires that a public hearing for any fee increases be held. And then the financial governance policy requires all fees to be included in the fee schedule with the exception of the following, and that's the water and sewer and solid waste, drainage, and the street maintenance fee. And Mr. Reynolds will be briefing you on the water and sewer and solid waste following this presentation. So we'll start with the animal services fee changes. And I will just tell you, this is a long presentation, so I'm not going to go through every fee. I'll just hit the highlights of a few, and then if you have any questions on specific ones. So on this particular one for the animal services, there's a increase for the intake vaccinations of $5. Owner surrender for sterilize will go up by $10. The owner requested euthanasia is a new fee, and we tried to highlight these new fees by designating this. And all of them, we show the benchmark, if available, the current fee, the proposed fee, and what the amount changed is. So the other items for the animal services, we have the quarantine boarding per day with a change of 15 and the redemption of 10. For aviation, these are just some badge fee increases. And there are several slides of these. And then we have some changes for the fuel price list. And then I would like to point out here on the overnight aircraft parking, this is for non-airlines. This is for like when we have aircraft that's visiting Fort Cavazos that could stay here, and they would stay at our airport rather than having to fly back to their home base. It's cheaper for them to stay here. And then we have the long-term parking and the short-term parking. And this one I know everyone wants to talk about. So this one would be an increase of $1 for the long-term parking for each additional 30 minutes and $2 for each additional 30 minutes for the short-term parking. So currently, all disabled veteran plates are exempt from paying parking at short-term and long-term parking. And the recommendation is to remove free parking exemption for disabled veteran plates that do not display handicap symbol in short-term parking only. And free parking exemption would remain for the long-term parking. So you could be able to continue to get free parking exemption in the long-term parking. And this is recommended to be effective October 1st.
Mrs. Drake, as you
Yes,
go
ma'am.
through it, can we ask questions if it comes to a slide that
Yes,
we have
ma'am.
questions? And because a resident did bring that up, can we say, Mr. Boyd, was that your question you had? Okay, Councilman Borsari, can we explain why that came about? I know I understand why. Mr. Cagle?
Yes, ma'am. Airport's revenues are about a third parking, a third landing fees, and then a third contracts, whether it's concessionaires, rental cars, things like that. And so this is a significant revenue for the airport. So we were looking for a way to increase revenue here without taking away something. We know we're going to have covered parking up front now, and we didn't want to take that away from any veteran that had the handicap sticker on their license plate. And we still wanted to give the free parking. But the issue is, costs are costs to run an airport, and if you take away a significant part of the revenue, it needs to be made up somewhere. So if we can't do something like this, there will probably be a point in time where we just start subsidizing from the general fund. So we thought this was a good time to bring this up, as there's going to be enhanced parking at the airport within the next year or so. And just to go along that, people think our airport is expensive. The ticket may be expensive, but we don't do that. We don't set American Airlines rates. We have some of the lowest landing fees in the country. We do everything we can to give the airlines quality service, good experience at a low cost. And that's one of the thirds you don't want to increase as we're trying to attract new airlines to the airport. So where do we get the money to cover the cost? The costs are there. Whether everybody that parks is free or everybody pays, the costs are there, and you have to find a way to cover those costs in order to run the business. So that's sort of the background on this. Just to reiterate, if you have a DV license tag without the handicap, you can still park for free. And it's about, I don't know, another 50 yards or so, depending on how full the parking lot is, whether you get the closest one or the closest one in the long-term parking. Our parking lot is not very big compared to obviously larger airports. So that's the difference that we're recommending. If the choice is not to, long-term, something has to be done for the airport because there are costs to run the operation.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gonzalez, you had something to that? You cleared it up. Councilmember Segarra.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Cagle. But I just have a question on that because I think I understand what we're trying to do, and I'm okay with it. But I think the challenge, and hopefully you got some in place, is to try to explain this to people because I think that you're going to see a lot of battles. You know, people are going to be parking in there with DV plates, expecting to get free parking. So I think that we got to hopefully something in place to overcome that because they're going to be battling to make sure that they don't understand. You got to have the handicap symbol, and they're going to say, "Well, I got plates. What's the difference?" And so.
And yes, sir. And we've anticipated that if this is approved. Working on training with our vendor and signage, so they know someone's going to come up and when they see the DV plate and they want to park in short term, they have to be prepared and trained to tell them, okay, that's going to cost. You can park in this parking lot for free, or if you park in the short term, you're going to have to pay.
Yeah, because usually there's nobody there. The thing just goes up, you park in, and there's nobody there it's on the way out after you've done it.
We have to
and
be
that's
very
where-
good with the signage.
And also our city website, that information will be posted on there. Any more questions on this particular slide? Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Cagle.
Yes, ma'am.
So the next section would be the development services. We have subdivision variance on the planning fees, would be an increase per request of $100. Order of design compliance of $35 increase. On the preliminary plat application, per application, the change would be $200. On the 11 to 50 acres is 100, and the final plat applications, you can see, was a 200 and 100. On the building and inspections.
Can you go back to that just a minute, because we need to clarify here. This is not a $600,000 fee. Just to make sure everyone understands, I think this was the testimony that we had earlier. Different one? Okay, it's still not, when we get there, it's still not a $600,000 fee.
On this one, we have the commercial and multifamily new additions would go up 3 cents per square foot. On the commercial, multifamily new additions, building per unit, $40. Plan review per unit would be $85. Solar panels would increase, and then the windows and doors. Then we have these miscellaneous fees on the permits. We have these miscellaneous fees. Lawn and irrigation temp permit would go up $5. Certificates of occupancy, partial and temporary, would go up $10 for 30 days, and the second extension of 30 days would be $20. And then I believe this is the one that everyone is interested in. So I need to apologize here. Where this says per acre, that should be per permit. So this would be a $500 increase. So for one subdivision construction plan review for a 1 to 10 acre subdivision per permit, it would increase from 500 to 1,000.
Council, do y'all have any questions? Council, do y'all have any questions on this particular side? Councilmember Adams.
I do, and I've also expressed this with staff as well, I know that we historically have the lowest rates on some of these fees, and I can see the shock that this was caused, these and other ones. But I'd like to see if we could quantify the man-hours that shows why we needed to go this high, because I think before we even present this to the public, we need to justify it. And if there's no justification, then I won't be able to support it.
Mr. Cagle.
It still does not cover our cost when you add the development fees to the engineering and building inspection. The costs are still higher than the revenue.
And then at the same time also, is there a way to, and there are other things where we've had an incremental advance. I think something we approved last year, that we did that. And even if that's just another option of this, and I know we're not at the decision phase right now. There's just, if we could consider those other things, if it's necessary to, if we actually determine if it's necessary to do this, can we spread it out and it still not cause harm?
I mean, we can do anything.
Okay.
That pretty much the council directs us to.
All right, thanks.
So Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. And along the same lines, Councilmember Adams was just on, just for a point of clarification and edification between now and next week, if we could get regarding this subdivision construction plan review fees and the next one, the final conformance inspection of public infrastructure, three things I would like to see between now and then is, number one, where specifically in the ordinance is the current fee schedule located? Number two, has the city collected these subdivision inspection of public infrastructure fees consistently in the past? Number three, can we get a breakdown, like Councilmember Adams was saying, as to what we believe is fair and equitable as far as staff time to perform these inspections? what that looks like, just so we can really help paint that picture and get a good grasp on what it is that we're voting on. Thank you.
Thank you. And going on, Councilmember Alvarez, House Bill 3492, September the 1st, how would this affect these rates come September 1st? Or will we be in compliance or not? That's one question, and I don't know. But it was brought up tonight, so I don't know. Mr. Cagle?
Yes, ma'am, our expenses are still higher than our revenue, so.
No, I was talking about House Bill.
Yes, ma'am, we can't charge more and make it a profit center. We can't charge more than our services cost.
Yes, Councilwoman Gonzalez. So what you're saying basically is that the rates that we have are fair rates based on House Bill 3492.
I think they're legal, and fair depends, because once again, remember, these are costs, so the question we're deciding here, or the question before you, is who pays those costs? Do our current taxpayers pay them? Or, as we've talked about over and over, should we try to make new development pay for the cost? So what good is new development if it costs the taxpayers more, the existing taxpayers? And so this is a theme that's run all the way through the comp plan, is to try to have better development that can actually pay for the true cost of service, but all the cost of bringing in the new development should be tried to be borne by that new development. We're not necessarily doing that, but this gets us closer.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Sagara.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to clarify, on all these where it says 1 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 acres and above, all that is permit, not per acre, right? Because they all say per acre, so all of them.
Correct.
And the difference, my question is, and I guess you'll let us know, Mr. Cagle, but the difference when they submit a permit for that, there's a difference amount of work required when they get one that is 10 acres versus 50? Is there something in addition that they have to do to justify?
Yes, sir. We're reviewing all the subdivision plans to try to catch things like some of the complaints you get when someone moves into the house in the first rain, their backyard and their back porch are filled with mud, or when the person's talking about suing the city council because the runoff from the new development is damaging their property, when sidewalks aren't where they're supposed to be in a subdivision. These are just some of the things off the top of my head that the bigger the development, the more things there are to examine.
No, and I understand we probably, you know how long we've had these prices, these current fees in place, the current ones that we have?
Since 2015.
So I think that over the time, I think, I'm okay with incremental increases, but I think that we're probably trying to pay catch-up too much. It's such a tremendous increase right here. And I think that we probably need to look at it, especially now, the way that things are. But I just wanted, and I'm sure if we can figure out, what the difference between the staff time between the 10 acres and something 50, maybe if we can get that later. That's all I have on this one.
Councilmember Alvarez, this is your second time.
Thank you, Mayor. And not to beat a dead horse, but, we talk about who ends up footing this bill, whether you charge it on the front end in a fee and it gets passed down to the consumer that way, or if the taxpayers make up the difference in what the city's incurring in cost. There's probably 1,000 different ways to dissect these issues and to look at them. I tend to lean more towards a pragmatic way of looking at it, and that's why I asked for if we could get a breakdown of what we believe the staff time is and the resources allocated to these inspections, so we can get a better understanding. While we're having this conversation, I pulled up City of Harker Heights, and their fees are pretty low. obviously, they don't have the infrastructure we have, they don't have the overhead we have, but just to get an idea of what our neighbors are doing. And I also reached out to City of Temple to see what theirs look like, and I just think we just need some more discussion and to really play this thing out before we make a decision on these. Anyways, thank you.
So, Mr. Cagle, with the fees from 2015, is that correct, Mrs. Drake?
Yes.
Okay. How did we calculate the fee? I guess that's what no one wants to ask, because we just going around on saying the same thing. How do we calculate the rates?
Well, there's several ways to look at it. First of all, is the highest level. What are our costs on the development inspection side? And does our fee structure cover those costs? That's the big picture. If you want to look at each individual fee, then I guess we can, which is what we're going to do because we've been asked to do it, is to look at individual time and costs.
Yes, sir. Oh, that was your answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you. So I'm not going to belabor that point as well, so thank you for asking those questions, because I too checked out the city of Waco, and there was a big disparity in the availability, or the actual cost associated. My questions actually, in general, there was some question about the communications aspect of how this notices go out. And so from a customer service standpoint, for me, I just want to get some clarity as to how that works, because when you have an end user and the rates are going up significantly, in any industry outside of us, there's normally notification period. People are notified and they're told this is what we can expect. We mentioned that there was an alert system via communication that went out for 30 days in April. Is that like via the code red, or how was that information disseminated to the community in general?
Well, I believe it's like the alert system that the people sign up for through communications, but I'm still trying to confirm that that did actually go out. I thought it did, but Janelle is looking into that.
Okay, so we'll have an update on whether or not that went out?
Yes.
Okay. And then when it comes to the builders, one of the builders asked the question about notification to the board directly when we have information out. How do we normally notify constituents that have that this is going to directly impact? How do we notify those people of these types of changes that are coming typically?
Well, I think in our governing standards, the process was set up where we do that March, April timeframe, put it on the website. But yes, we could have sent them direct notices. We probably should have. So my question, is that going to apply to all of these? The list is extensive, but.
The gentleman just asked, I just wanted to see what the process was. That was the question, as far as how do they get notified when these fees directly impact that particular segment, whether it's building or real estate or whatever. So thank you for that.
And could you remind us the timeline when this is going to be voted on?
So it would be when we adopt the budget. So we could make changes prior to the second budget public hearing.
Right.
And then the final adoption of the budget on September 12th.
Right, and today's August 1st. So I'm just trying to say that there's still a fair amount of time. This is not something that's going to be voted on next week.
So long as we have those changes by August 22nd.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gonzalez, are you finished? Okay. Councilmember Sagara, this is your second time.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this the second time for this slide? Can I speak on the other one too, right? I forgot one question.
You are a former mayor, you know better.
I forgot one question earlier, because we were talking about the per acre, and it's going to be per minute. And I've had a couple of meetings, with the development community and the builders, and one of the issues that was brought up was a lot of times, they'll submit permits, and it gets kicked back for whatever reason, and then it might go back and forth a couple of times. So when we say, the fee is per permit or is it just at one time, or is it every time that it gets kicked back, it's an additional fee?
It's one time.
One time? So, okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And Councilmember Sagara, for every slide, you can have 2 times to speak on the slide.
Thank you.
Any more questions on this particular slide? Thank you, Mrs. Drake. We can go to the next one. Thank you, Mr. Cagle.
So we have the final conformance inspection of public infrastructure.
Any questions on the slide? No, ma'am. Oh, yes, Councilmember Sagara.
It's kind of, I just want to clarify, because this one's kind of says the same thing. It's per inspection, but on this one, kind of the same questions, because the price on this one went up to 10,000, and, if we can justify that and say, what's the purpose? Why did it go up so high? Again, I'm okay with a price increase, gradual, but, I mean, that just seems extraordinary for this one time. And my biggest concern, and it's not even for the building community, I know that, and we spoke about that, because they passed that on to the consumer. And over time, what's made us, so somebody spoke earlier about affordability and all that. And right now, if you go to the Texas A&M Real Estate Center, you can pull up all the numbers. And we have right now, as of June, 1.6 months of inventory, even in this hard market. So what that creates, it creates our home prices to continue to rise. And my concern has always been, and we're in a unique situation. We talk about veterans and home exemption, but the big thing that, and I've been part of this, is our BRAC base realignment and the affordability. And I know that some people would like to see home prices go up, but what that does is it takes your average person out of the market, not just in the home buying, but when there is a shortage of homes, what happens is we've seen rental prices just go crazy, astronomical. Even our new apartment complex, when I was looking today to see what a small bedroom, it's at $1,200 a month. $1,200. So I was telling people it was $900. Now we're up to $1,200. All that affects our market, and we got to do whatever we can to try to make sure that we keep our home prices as low, because I can tell you all these costs, it's not going to affect the building community, it's going to affect our buyers in the long term. And so we don't want to do that, because I think that this shortage right now we're going to continue to see home prices right now. The median price in Killeen, again, if you go to the Texas A&M Real Estate Research Center, they pull that data. Right now, it's $240,000. 5 years ago, it was at $129,000 for Killeen. That's a 66% home appreciation in the last 5 years, and I'm just talking about the city of Killeen, not everything else. And so everything that we do is going to have an effect on that, and it's going to put a lot of people out. And right now, there's still a shortage, like I say, and so that's kind of why I'm like that. And I understand, what the builders are talking about, but my concern is mostly for them. And the funny part is, if prices continue to go up, that's a benefit for me too, because I sell real estate, I get paid on commission. The higher the price, the better, but I don't want that to happen. I don't want to see people get priced out of our market and start going to other places. So that's kind of why this really concerns me. Even a little bit of price will affect our home buyers, because a lot of times $1,500, they can't. They want to put a fireplace and the builder says it's $1,500, they won't do it because they can't afford that. So I just want to understand where I'm coming from. So if we can look at keeping these at a minimal, that'd be good, especially in this time.
So we were trying to adjust fees to help assist what we're spending on inspections. To answer the question, it is per permit, it's not per inspection. I don't think I can justify charging someone that. But what it means is for a subdivision that's 10 acres to 50 acres, the current fee is $5,000. We're proposing to be $15,000. In regard to what Councilman Alvarez was saying, we did do an analysis for the inspections. We haven't done the design fee. We'll work on that. We'll get that next week. But just looking at this fiscal year from October, we've had five subdivisions from 1 to 10 acres. We've had 2 of them from 10 to 50 acres and 3 from 50 acres or above. The cost of the permits, or for the inspections, would have been $52,500 combined. When I looked at the total amount of inspections that we've done and the hours, it cost the city $213,909.75 for the 4 inspectors. And that's not including the vehicles and the wear and tear, the fuel, and all the equipment. So we're roughly getting a quarter of what we're spending through the fees right now. The proposal would bring it to about 50%.
And with that said, and I know that we've probably talked about this in the past, but I think that this process, I think that there's a way we can probably figure out how to improve it. And, with the technology, I know and I don't know, maybe you've got this implemented or not, but in the past, making it easier for that permit process where maybe there's not so many man hours involved, online and things like that. So that way it's at a minimum, because I agree, I think that maybe we spend too much man hours going back and forth, and I don't know why we do that. And there is, and we've talked about, there seems to be like a breakdown of communication because, and who knows, it may be that you're doing the right thing, but they're not getting the word. So whether that's the breakdown that we need to fix, we got to do that because, there seemed to be some kind of lack of communication. And that's where I think that we're losing money. And so we got to figure out how can we improve that, because I've been here for 30 years in real estate, and it's never been like it takes, this. And I know that there's more regulations, but maybe we haven't caught up to how to implement those new regulations, and we're still using an old way to do these new regulations instead of figuring out better ways to manage it. And so we're doing a lot of man hours, probably that's unnecessary, when maybe technology's out there that can help us.
Councilmember Adams.
I'm not going to repeat everything Councilman Zagar said, but in general economy, when the government increases fees, is the intent is to decrease the activity. And even if it increases to improve our revenue, but our customer will think, oh, they don't want us to do it anymore. That's in basic political science and economics, and that's not a swipe on you guys or a talk down or anything. I agree we need to just be, I agree with a gradual rise to catch up where we should be. Again, for this one, as with all the other ones. And I did look at TML's manual that they gave us last year on taxes and fees. And that's why I asked the question, is this new revenue, if it met? Because even in TML suggests that you got to be, it even suggests being cautious about the large, but in the new fees does not appear that your revenue is like 100% more than what it was, and it justifies based off of what we're asking for. I guess that makes. So I don't have a question, just a statement. You said you're already going to do that additional data. So
we've already
okay
done some of it.
And so this will just be one other that we would need it for, I think.
It really comes down to what you want.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of discussion, and we get a lot of questions, and we hear people say, why do developments in Killeen look worse than other cities? Well, why is now suddenly the review taking longer? Well, I'll just be honest. Used to, something was turned in, it was like hitting a ping pong or a tennis ball up against the wall. It came right back because we weren't reviewing. We're just signing them and giving them. And then you end up with many of the problems that I talked about before. So it's just a question, number one, what do you want? If we want to just sign off on anything that comes in, because there is a direct correlation between the quality of the submission and the time it takes to review it. And second, if we don't want us to review it, just let us know. When we have these problems, we understand that's the other cost of doing business, is that the customer on that end is going to have to deal with those problems. It's a complicated issue, and anytime you try to change, there's going to be a lot of pushback. That's the way things were done around here for a very long time, and we were trying to change it and under the impression that people wanted change. And then if you do want change but don't want to pay for it, the question is who then pays for it, the current taxpayer or the developer? So there's really two levels of decision. What do you want, and then who's going to pay for it?
Yeah. And I think that was addressed in the comprehensive plan as well when we approved it. But I understand and totally agree with what you're saying, and we do need to change the paradigm a bit how we're doing business. But even if we look at that for, I think Councilmember Cigar mentioned some efficiencies that would help as well, not just the rate increase.
Agreed.
Yeah. Thanks.
So we are talking about the proposed rate increase for FY 2024 to be effective October the 1st. This is a proposed rate increase. Councilmember Gonzalez and then Councilmember Boyd. And please, we got to stay on the agenda item.
Thank you, Madam. So we talk about efficiency in the man hours, to Councilman Segarra's point. It just kind of makes me wonder, and I don't know the answer to this, and it might be way off, but if we don't have the manpower maybe, or the technology possibly, if that's an issue that's causing our delays, I'm not saying that that's the end-all be-all. Is there a savings possibly with us using a third-party service? Some cities they're outsourcing their permitting processes. There's a firm in Dallas. I don't know the answer to that. I'm just asking in general, would that help us expedite? Would that help us save cost? Because ultimately, you guys talk about the beginning and the end, regardless, our taxpayers, they're going to pass that cost on to our buyers. So to his point about affordable housing, it's going to go up regardless of how we slice this. But the question is, how can we make this the most feasible and practical for everyone involved?
We can do some contract. What most people do is they use that to supplement the ups and downs. But when everybody does it, there's a limited number of people out there that can do those inspections. And sometimes even if you have a contract, they may not be able to provide the service. And I believe we do some of that, and we've been doing it on the engineering side. You've heard some complaints here tonight about, why are you doing this? Because we do that on some of the subdivision review, because we can't hire engineers. We contract it out. So there's the two levels, the subdivision review that an engineer would do, then that when the building actually is going up, a building inspector. And you can contract some level of both of those out if there are enough vendors out there to do it. Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Manager, for those comments. And I agree, it's one of those things where you're darn if you do, darn if you don't. And yes, we absolutely want better communities in our city. But on the opposite side of that coin is there's always a balance. And finding that balance obviously is not an easy task for staff or for developers or builders or for city council. So there is unfortunately, there's no clear solution. So our task up here is to try to make the best and most informed decision that we can. I think if we get this information that's been brought up here between now and next week, we can certainly, it will help to make that informed decision. And hopefully, maybe as time goes on, there are some other things that we can look at, whether it's outsourcing or some technology or maybe having the developers pay for a third-party inspection and provide that to the city. Maybe they believe that that's a cheaper option for them. I don't know what the answer is, but Obviously, when you look at this at face value, no matter how well off you are or not, it is definitely a sticker shock. And you mentioned, Mr. Zagers, that there was 3 subdivisions, I think, that you guys just passed, and you kind of used those to come up with some numbers of what you believe the staff time was. So I guess my question to that is, out of those 3 subdivisions, how much did we collect out of the current fee? Did we collect that full amount?
Depending on when they were approved. These fees started fiscal year of this fiscal year. Our department doesn't, our group, the engineering group, doesn't collect the fees. We charge them and we can look at it. But for just the 3 large ones, the 50 acres or above, we would have collected $30,000 in inspection fees based on our current fee. We have performed 2,299 inspections on those 3 developments alone. Typically, they're an hour and a half per each inspection. That's drive time, that's going out there. Some are longer, some are shorter. Just in that is $133,000 based on our inspectors that we have today that were on there.
Sure, and again, I don't disagree. I used to do that job when I worked for the city. I would inspect the drainage infrastructure, so I get it. But I just would be curious to know if we collected these fees, or have we consistently been collecting these fees or not. I thought somebody said that these were in place since 2015.
That is what I heard earlier. It was presented,
It's
but we
the
will
last time that
provide
they
that in the report.
changed. It was 2015.
Okay.
And the bottom line, council, it's up to you. You can accept these fees, or you don't have to accept these fees in this budget. Because tonight, we're not going to come up with a solution. The bottom line, it's up to you, council. You want the fees the way they are, or you want them to lower the fees, or you just want them to get rid of the fees? And it's up to you. Councilmember Alvarez, are you finished, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I agree with you. We're not going to come to a solution tonight. I just want to make sure at least we speak what's on our mind and hopefully engage in this conversation with staff. That way that information can come back to us and we can go from there. But thank you.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I do want to address Councilman Everett's question about the past collection of these specific fees. I did ask for a report today on that. That collection has been about $6,000, so it's been significantly short of what was expected. I think it's, as what has already been stated, there haven't been prior systems in place to make sure that that was done. Those systems are in place now, and we're moving forward from there.
Thank you, sir.
Any, Councilmember Sagala.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to thank the staff, because I think that what Andrew gave just a little while ago, Andrew, was a good explanation. And I think that that's probably the first time that I've heard, and I'm sure, and I don't know if that's the building community, of, why these fees need to be adjusted, the man hours and everything involved. So kind of, that's, I think, the explanation that probably should have been explained a long time ago. And then the other thing that, I appreciate is clarity, because I think that just like a lot of people here, we're all confused, and I know it's a typo error there, but, when it was per acre per permit, that's where I think the building community came up with this 600,000, and now we know it's not going to be 600,000. If it's a 50 acre or above, the estimated amount for the plan review is 5,500, not, right? It's 5,500, yeah. And then the other one, where was the one with the acreage? So I think out of all of these, which one would be the most expensive? If somebody, and Andrew, maybe you can answer this, if they're a developer and they submit a 50-acre plan, what would be the cost?
First, for the plan review, would be that it was $6,500 to do the reviews, and that's all reviews. That's the first, dealing with comments, going back and forth until they are approved. And then you would have the inspection fee, which would be the proposed, right now it's $10,000, proposed to be $20,000, and that covers the entire inspection of the subdivision until we accept all the infrastructure, which includes water, sewer, roadways, inspecting the drainage, the detention ponds, the swales, the pipes, the catch basins, doing the testing, verifying the testing of the geotech. So we have a pavement design manual that we require, density tests. The developer's paying for the density tests. We don't have the equipment to do that, but we're out there verifying that they're meeting the compaction. They're meaning, they're bringing in the right material, the right type of rock. They're getting it compacted. They're bringing in the asphalt, and it's being measured at the right thickness based on the design. So all that is getting inspected to the point where we can approve it and we accept it, to where the infrastructure, the roadways, the water lines, and the sewers are all now going to be city infrastructure that we will then take over and maintain. So that's what the inspection fee's for. And then it allows the developers to sell the lots, move to the building permits and build the homes and go in from there.
Well, that's good. No, and I appreciate that. And, and I think that overall, I think there's justification, but I think that we're just doing it, too quick from one year to another. I think over time, I think we need to get there, maybe stay up with it. We haven't done these in 7, 8 years, and it takes someone to kind of do that, and you got to justify as to why. So, and this is up to me, maybe go back and I'm okay, just cut these in, and I'm just going to throw a number out there, half these proposed fee increases, and maybe look at them again next year. And when I talk about half, I'm talking about the big ones here, let me go back here. The 20,000 and the 15,000, and that way they go from 5,000 to what is it, 12,000, and then 10,000 to 15,000. I'd be more inclined, smaller increments, and then we can get there in time, because I know that what you say is true, and I appreciate. We got to cover the city too. But we don't want to throw that all out there at once, because it was our fault. We haven't adjusted these in 8 years. And so we got to take the bite a little bit. So I think that there's got to be some kind of compromise here that both of us, whether they agree or not. But I think the overall thing that I learned is that, that it's not $600,000. It's not per, and so I appreciate you guys doing that. But I think that we can probably work with the fee increases, but not necessarily so big at this time, and then just maybe look at it again next year, so that it prepares everybody for it, and so.
So
with that, thank you,
Councilmember
Mayor.
Sagara, was that a motion of direction to cut them in half? Trying to get clarity.
Yes, I move.
A motion of
Motion of
direction.
direction that those proposed fees cut in half, the 15,000 to 7,500 to 20,000 to 10,000.
So, wait a minute, clarity, the subdivision inspection, you wanted to go, the proposed fee is 7,500.
Yeah.
And the subdivision inspection over 50 acres and above, you wanted to go to 10,000. Is that right?
No, I was looking at in half, how the proposed.
It would be, it's 20,000.
Yeah, change it.
It would
Change
be
is 10,000.
10,000.
So whatever the change is, just cut it in half. So the change is 10,000. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. Yeah, there you go. So that 10,000, make it 5,000. And then if we go back.
So basically, what you're saying is the same fee. You don't want to change the fees then? The only one would change would be the second one, the 50 acres and above.
Right now,
Because if you change the last one, the one that circa the 10,000, 10,000, both of them would be 5,000. Is that correct?
That's the increase.
no, we're talking about the increase. Current fee is 5,000. You cut that in half, it goes to 10,000 instead of 15,000. Yeah, you got it. I think the staff knows what I'm talking about, right?
Would you say the motion of direction, so that at least the secretary can get it right?
Sure, the motion of direction was to cut the development fee increases in half.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Okay, I got it. So the current fee is 5,000, And then the change that we want 10,000 is gonna go to 5,000. Okay. So both of them will be 5,000. Okay. All right, did I get a second to that motion of direction? So Councilmember Sagara made the motion of direction, and Councilmember Solomon seconded the motion of direction. Staff, do y'all have that, Mr. Kager, everybody? You got it? Okay, all in favor of the motion of direction? Oh, wait a minute, I'm gonna see if we got any more comments on that. I'm sorry, my whole board. Oh, we still have comments.
And I still did have comments, because I wanted to also
Okay,
go back
please.
to the engineering, because the engineer, it says subdivision construction plan review, and that's about a proposed $6,500 fee, and so it's going from 1,000 to a 5,500. So I think that's excessive too, and so I would
Is
like.
that the first slide before this one?
The one the one before that, yeah.
Yes.
So I think
So-
that on that one, from 1,000 to 5,500, if we can kind of do the same thing and cut that one in half.
Okay. So your motion of direction is to make the changes to 500 for 1,000. Is that what you're saying, Councilmember Sagara?
No, the change would be 5,500, so just cut that one in half.
We must be on a different page. Oh, the 5,500. You
Well,
want that one
says
to,
50 acres and above, it goes from 1,000 to 6,500. So instead of 6,500, because the difference is 5,500 is the change. So if we can kind of reduce that.
These are development fees. I took that in your motion that these were going to be cut in half.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. If you got it, then you understand. So I
okay.
just want to make sure it covered all that.
Mr. Purser, we're going to have public hearing next week, because right now it's not open. So you can speak. Yes, sir, next week you can. Yes, sir, it's next week. We're just following the Open Meeting Act, so we won't be in violation. So next week, you can come back and we'll have our public hearing. You can talk twice on comments and during the public hearing. So you have 2 times to speak on them. And this is not concrete. We just making changes as we go. I apologize. Thank you, sir. All right.
I'm done, and I know, Mayor, I think you said you had a motion in a second, right?
Oh, yes, and we already, Mr. Cagle said he understood that to be in the one. So if you take that motion of direction back, who seconded, will you take the motion of direction back? We don't need it. Just say, I remove it, you remove yours. Okay, so now we can, yes, sir. Because everything he said, Mr. Cagle said he already understood, both slides would go into that. All right. Are you, anything that you have, 1 minute and 18 seconds, if you want to continue.
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, you finished? Councilmember Boyd?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chime in on this. First, this is a very robust ask or a set of proposals to go out more than 7 years later. My first question is, how do we arrive at this point, projecting such a large rate increase as opposed to doing it gradually over the past 7 years?
Mr. Cagle?
Well, over the past 7 years, we didn't have a comprehensive plan. We didn't have the direction we felt like we had now. We also just, I believe, a couple of meetings ago, that didn't impact this, but we were directed to find other ways to increase revenue without looking at taxes. I guess the idea of trying to make development pay for itself, trying to find revenue to pay for services other than taxes, we felt like these were directions that recent and not so recent that we've had. So that was our reasoning. If we're off, we're off, and that's part of the council's job. change it.
Thank you for that. Do we have any data showing the demand for some of these increases? For example, I know the Killeen Community Civic and Conference Center, rather. There's rate proposal increases across the board for most of the facilities inside of there or the rooms. Do we have data to show, or I'd like to request to have data to show there's demand to increase rates in some of these areas? Because if there's not a demand there and we're increasing the rates, we're making it less likely for others to take into consideration renting the facilities.
It's very busy. I mean, I think that went into our thought process there, is to try to, because the convention center doesn't cover its cost either, and it's subsidized by the hotel motel tax fund. And just, I've said that a lot tonight, we're not covering our costs, and we've had people come up and say, we spend too much, but when we look at that, when we look at what we spend per person compared to other cities, the number of employees we have to provide services per capita, so it's across the board, we're very low in all of those categories. But once again, we can leave them the same and just use the hotel motel tax to run the facility.
Okay. Overall, my concern is with, a lot of it is with the development services fee increases. There's 32 rate increases just in that department, which is more than any of the other departments. They also have the highest amount of fees increased in there. And it surprised me because this is where we're hearing most of our inefficiencies. I'm concerned about the timing of these proposed rate increases, considering that there's other issues that perhaps need to be resolved. It is my understanding that we still have folks out of town, as well as our local folks, that are concerned about building here based on what's already in place. And when we're putting this on top of it, it makes it less attractive. And I do believe that's a real issue. Maybe the idea is to, snuff these folks out so we get somebody else in here. But we need to be able to have a system where everyone feels like they have a level playing field. I just don't believe we're at that point yet. Overall, I'm not in favor of these rate increases at this time. And one reason is that since I got here on this council in June of 2021, we've had several rate increases. A lot of them were I determined were appropriate and voted in favor of because of the studies that were in place and the recommendations through those consultants. But I mean, it's increase after increase after increase, different rates, sewer, trash, water. I mean, developmental fees or parkland dedication fee. It's a lot that's getting piled on there. So I'm starting to see where this can be or is a burden, for folks who are working to establish themselves here or to grow and to build out our city going forward. So there are some things I do believe are appropriate in there, like the overnight parking for the airport. I think that's great for the narrow, regional, wide-body aircraft. But one thing that doesn't make sense to me either is that KCC, the Killeen Community Center or Civic Center, the RV parking rent is going to be increased when we haven't even made electrical upgrades to it. So we're going to increase rates at a location where we haven't improved it yet. And again, it just seems like it's backwards. All in all, at this point, I'm not in favor of any rate increase. I feel like the timing is off. So that's what I have.
I would appreciate being able to answer that. And it is not right to tell the staff we're trying to run somebody out of business. I mean, we've showed you there are many cities that have higher fees where people from out of town pay these fees and fees far in excess of what we charge. And I'm telling you, we are already providing low-cost, very low-cost services. Over the past year, inflation's run as high as 9%. I think some people don't understand, well, it's down to 3%. Well, that 9% didn't go away. Those costs are passed along to us. We're running a business just like any other business. We've showed you the costs that are passed along to us for water, for sewer, for garbage. Where does the money come from if it does not come from the customers? I don't know where to get it. In solid waste, you saw the incredible cost in landfill fees and transportation costs, the costs that are passed along to us, and there's nothing wrong with it. They're accurate from WCID, the things that you were just complaining about, water, sewer, garbage. When we showed you the comparison, we're very low. We were just lauded nationally for having some of the lowest cost of living and the cost of our services in the country. But if you keep them that low, what happens is our infrastructure starts crumbling. We saw that in the streets because the same arguments were made. We're not going to spend the money to maintain the streets, and then they fall apart and everybody gets concerned. Same thing's going on underneath the ground right now. Why do we have so many boil water notices? We have so many broken lines? Well, we do have internet providers drilling into our lines, but even without that, we have a lot of breaks. They're not caused by some contractor, they're caused by old infrastructure and shifts in the soil. So you're going to pay one way or another. Do you want to pay with multiple boil water notices and pouring all the money that we paid to treat and transport that water from Belton all the way over to here and pouring it out on the ground? That there's a cost one way or the other. We are not a high-cost organization. And so, sorry,
I guess
I'm repeating myself now, and I'll end that.
I appreciate that. And I think I may just be relaying a lot of what I've heard through phone calls and meetings in relation to this particular subject. And the concerns do exist. And my job as a council member representing these folks is to bring them up and to challenge some of them. I have my personal concerns as well. And the chief one is the timing of doing this. I understand the comprehensive plan, all that's new, but if we would have taken a more gradual approach to this, I think that would have been most appropriate. You've heard from most council members here, some of this is not substantiated, okay? I don't have all the clarity I need. There's a ton more I could say about this, but I'm not, so it doesn't come off as if I'm beating staff, but these are taxpayer dollars. Thanks.
Councilmember Gonzalez, and after that, Ms. Drakes, we're moving forward.
There's been a lot of very valid points at this point, so thank you for that clarity, Mr. Cagle. And to Councilman Boyd's point, we do hear both sides, and I think that it's important that our constituents hear this conversation. This is not belittling our staff or anything like that. I think they do need to understand the why. So to your point of we've got to cover that cost at some point. To your point, we should have managed better, right, over time. I think that we do need to explain to our constituents the why and help them understand how did we get here, how do we prevent ourselves from getting to this point again, but then also finding a way to make it palatable for all parties involved in the interim.
Mrs. Drake, can we move forward? I think we got direction. I really do.
Oh, my.
So I just
Let me
think
get
that
where
what the council is looking for is, and what I highly recommend to each council member, Councilmember Alvarez broke it down exactly what he is looking for to get a clear understanding. And if each council member could do that and send it to staff and have a working knowledge that when we meet next week to discuss this, everybody will get all their questions answered. So, Ms. Drakes, I'm sorry for the delay.
Okay, for this will start for the fire department, and for the ambulance, this is based on a one-way trip, and this would be an increase of $100. This is a base advanced life support inside city limits per service. The base advanced life support inside city limits per service would be a $150 increase, and then there would be a $50 increase to the basic life support inside city limits, and then the mileage would increase $2. And this would be a collapse of individual fees into packages where it's all into one. And then for the Adult Fire Academy, we'd have an increase to the CPR course. The EMT tuition would increase $200. Fire Academy tuition would increase $1,000. And one of the main increases for this Fire Academy tuition increase, one is that it has not been updated in over 15 years. And the second reason is because the Texas Commission on Fire Protection requires that the trainees wear gear that is acclimate to weight and physical restrictions and fire safety protection. So it needs to fit them. And currently, what they've been doing is wearing reserve gear from storage. So it didn't necessarily fit them properly. So we're renting gear that is fitted for each cadet. And so that increased cost would be part of the tuition. And then for the Clean Arts and Activity Center, there are some fee changes for some of the equipment that they rent. And then I would point out on a new fee here we have is for a 360 photo booth package for $300. And then we also have all of these new fees that were added for backdrop poles, banquet chair covers, strobe lights, and a projected image machine. And then food vendor and food truck would be a new fee per day, $50. And then we have the increases to the fees for the room rentals. And then at the Killeen Convention and Civic Center, we have the equipment rentals. There's different decorating packages that would be increased. And these are just where you could do combination equipment rentals where you can package together different equipment and get a discount. And then there would be the new fees for renting the foyer east and the field. And then the additional costs for room rentals. This would be the military and the nonprofits. And then the standard rates.
Councilmember Solomon.
Okay, I want to go back to the portable smart TV. The current fee is $30, and the proposed fee is $150, which is $177.5 change.
What slide you on?
I'm going to go back. It was in the. Yeah.
This one.
In reference to the portable smart TV, why such an increase with the, I mean, it was a $30, now it's $150.
I believe it's because of the changing of equipment. They used to have a smaller TV, and now they have a very large, more technology advanced smart TV that has a lot more capabilities. It can slide up and down. It can do lots of different things. And so it costs more, so they need to charge more for the rental. It was just, the fee has not been updated in so long. But the equipment has been changed.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
A question in general, and maybe Mr. Cagle, you know how we did a in-city versus a local versus an out-of-city rate for some of these fees regarding the convention center? Would that be feasible for some of these fees as well, where we charge a higher rate to people that are utilizing our facilities that are outside of the city of Killeen?
I think it's feasible. I don't know if you want to do it in the convention center or not, because we are trying to bring people into town. But there's a whole, I mean, I think there's a lot of areas where we could look at non-resident fees.
Okay.
You just have to see if keeping up with that and verifying it is worth the difference. And many times it can be.
Gotcha.
And it's going to, we're going to have to deal with this. It's going to get more difficult as we get more development in the ETJ, and people have well, especially in the mud, people are going to have a Killeen water bill, they're going to have a Killeen address, but they don't live in the city of Killeen. And those are some things we're going to be working on, especially at the landfill and some places where we have non-resident charges. But it is, maybe we just take that as some general direction to go back and look and see what the best areas are to add some non-resident changes.
Thank you, I was just curious. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am, you can continue.
So on this particular slide, there are some new fees, one for advertising at the KC3, retail sales, event tickets sales, and then the food vendor and food truck for the KC3. And these particular ones are to allow negotiating for contracts or agreements. Say there were to be a concert held at the conference center, then they would be able to negotiate a percentage of the ticket sales, where in the past they have not been able to do that, so. And now we move to legal. This would be an increase in the annual vehicle permit for the airport, and then just the annual vehicle permit non-airport. And then police, for the certified police copies, would increase 30 cents. And for public works, solid waste, these are the non-rate fees, items such as the dumpster cleaning and painting after a fire, or if you block the container and there's a return trip on the same day, or overloaded your container, or missed service. Or if there's a reload or replacement of container lids. And then the non-residents disposal fee that we had talked about on July 11th when the budget was presented. There's a proposed increase of $6.16 per ton, and this is for non-residents only. And then for water and sewer, there's an increase for the water meters, base charge if the builder installs the tap. And then there's the different meter sizes. And then the water meters for short service. And then for long service, and then the sewer tap. And then right now, there is currently not a reconnection fee if your water is disconnected, and there should be. And so this is a new fee for $25. And then we move on to recreation. This would be an increase for the Family Aquatic Center.
Mrs. Drake, I apologize. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mrs. Drake, Madam Mayor and Council, I am just gonna try right now to encourage you all to take the questions that you have. Let us go back and let us look. Let us send it to the different departments, get the information, look over it, and when we come back next week, maybe we can be more, maybe more subjective to other questions and answers that we have, because they'll be already answered. I think if we continue to go the route that we're going on, we're going to question everything. Because I know this is a workshop, but we're looking at 8:40. And that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. And one of the things we have to respect, we don't have to like what the other person's saying, but we have to stay professional at all times. And our comments, regardless if you haven't sidebar conversation, audio already said that they pick up our conversations and people can hear us. So we got to be respectful. And Mayor Pro Tem, she's almost finished with this slides, and we have to go through it because this is part of our budget process. So we have to go through it. And the council, I cannot stress this enough. It's 7 people. You have the final say. If you want to lower fees, keep them as they are, or raise them. It's up to the council. She's just doing her job to present it to us. She's not a point of attacked. She's just doing her job, and it's left up to you if you don't want to do it. Continue, please.
So these are the increases for the Family Aquatic Center. And then for the Long Branch Pool. And you'll see, notice that this particular one, for the annual pool pass up to 6 family members, there's no increase. It's just for the annual pool pass additional family member. Then we have the increases for athletics. And these are per field. And then these are all new fees: basketball replacement fee, duck relay fee, 10K registration, and 10K day of event registration. And then the Killeen Community Center, these are for the rentals of the rooms and audiovisual equipment for when it opens. And the Lions Club Recreation and Senior Center, ballroom rental, and then the deposit for the senior center facility reservation. And then for short-term rentals, so this is new, and it will begin October 1st. And so staff is proposing to waive the registration fee for the month of October in order to encourage owners to comply with the new ordinance. To facilitate inspections of the properties to meet required standards. So the Hotel Occupancy Tax Fund would pay for the inspections for the waived fees during the month of October, and all we would need would be a motion of direction to add the estimated $30,000 to the Hotel Occupancy Tax Fund in the FY24 proposed budget to pay for the inspections. We feel like this would be the best way to get the most, the most number of people with the short-term rentals to register in that first month. And we would do advertising and get the information out there to encourage those people to do that, so. Okay.
Councilmember Sagara had a motion of direction, and that motion of direction was to have fees on that development service in half. And it was seconded by Councilmember Solomon. So we're gonna vote on that. All in favor of the current motion of direction? It's 7-0, Madam Secretary. Now we have a motion of direction for the $30,000. A motion of direction is needed to add the estimated $30,000 to the Hotel Occupant Tax Fund in FY 2024 proposed budget to pay for the inspections. Councilmember Adams.
So Madam Mayor, I submit a motion of direction.
Councilmember Boyd.
Second.
Do anyone else have any discussion? All in favor? Yes, all opposed, no. Motion of direction carries. Everyone know you have to vote. 7-0. Mrs. Drake. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Reynolds will brief you on water and sewer and solid waste.
We still have another, Mrs. Drake, I'm sorry, I apologize. We have another question. Councilmember Sagara.
Thank you, Mayor. And Mrs. Drake, I just want to say thank you. And I think that what you guys did is a great job, and this is something that we do every year. The challenge that we have as a city, and our city manager, the challenge that he has is that everything externally goes up, whether we like it or not, and we just have to keep up with, inflation, unfortunately. And a lot of times, we as council members, we're elected officials and we don't like to do that, but sometimes we have to make those hard choices. And I think that you guys have done a great job. The only thing that I don't see an issue, so our Mayor Pro Tem, I apologize because I thought everything was good. She's doing a great job. But the only thing was that big increase there, and I understand that we need that, but I think that we just need to take our time on that and catch up because it's been a while. But everything else I'm in favor of, and I just wanted to say I appreciate all that. Thank you.
Council, we're taking a 10-minute break. It's 9:06, and I'm calling this meeting back to order. Mr. Reynolds, the floor is all yours. Good evening, how are you? Good. Is your mic on? We ready, Francisco? All right, we're ready.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Good evening, sir.
City Manager, City Attorney. All right, we're going, Mr. Drake just went over the fees. We're going to go over real quick the ordinance amendments for solid waste. On a little background, on July 17, 2021, Council received the results of the solid waste rate study. The study indicated that the commercial revenues are not sufficient to fully fund projected expenses and recommended an annual 8% rate increase for 3 years starting FY22 through FY24. FY24 budget includes an 8% increase as proposed, and residential revenues are sufficient, so there's no increase on residential side. This graph shows the increase. The most common used dumpster that we have is a 2-yard, emptied once a week. The change in that is going to be about $7.35. We have two alternatives. Staff recommends the City Council approve the ordinance amending Chapter 24 Solid Waste Code of the Code of Ordinances to amend solid waste commercial rates, and I'm available for any question you may have for this item.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds, but we do not have any questions. Madam Secretary, did you read that? Did I skip over that?
You skipped over it, Madam Mayor.
Okay, would you please go ahead on, and you can do that one and the next one. I apologize.
Sure. OR 23013. Let's see. Consider an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, Solid Waste to amend commercial solid waste rates. OR 23014, consider an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 30, Water, Sewers, and Sewage Disposal to amend water and sewer rates and other changes as presented.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Councilman, Mr. Reynolds.
Okay, this is the water and sewer ordinance amendments. A little background on this one. On July 7th of 2020, City Council received the results of the 2020 water and sewer rate study. The study indicated that the water revenues were insufficient to fully fund projected expenses to include infrastructure replacement, and also recommended a 5-year phased approach to increase the base charge for commercial meters based on the American Water Works Association standard for meter size capacities. Phase 1 was implemented in the FY23 budget of this 5-year phase plan. Phase 2 of the 5-year increase in the base charge for commercial meters is proposed for the FY24 budget, and the estimated additional revenue would be roughly $320,000 for the water and sewer fund. We also proposed an increase of $1.50 in minimum base rate for residential water and all sewer for FY 2024 budget. This is for all sewer, commercial and residential. This will affect all customers in city and out of city. Increase will provide an estimated $2 million in additional revenue, and the additional revenue will assist in offsetting the purchase cost of these services to the city. As you do know, we purchase this water from WCID, so there's an increase there. This graph shows the monthly residential rates. As you can see, the $1.50 is in there for the sewer, and the 5/8 and 3/4 meter is the meter that we mainly use. About 96% of our customers use this one. The cost, the change in that is going to be $1.50, so it goes from $13.54 to $15.04. There's no charge or cost change in the volumetric rates. This is the commercial side. You can see that we've got the sewer increase of $1.50 that we talked about. Also here with the 5/8 and 3/4, you're looking at $1.50 increase for that, and then it breaks down the other meter sizes as per the American Water Works Association standards. This gives you a little snapshot of what the average utility bill would be for a residential customer. You're looking at this, the different fees that are on there. You got sewer, water, solid waste, street maintenance, drainage. If you got a bill of $85.72, that would be about a $3 charge for what we're proposing, and the impact of that would be a $3 to the residential customer. This is our benchmark cities. Using the same 5,000 gallon usage, which is standard for the 3/4 and 5/8 meter size. As you can see, with our benchmark cities, we are one of the least expensive rates in that comparison. Also, the cities that have the asterisk by it are the cities who have confirmed that they are also proposing an increase in water and sewer rates for this proposed budget year. We're going to do a little house cleaning with the, in addition to the rates, we're going to do a little house cleaning to the ordinance. For this, we want to extend customer deposit refund period from 12 months to 24 months and remove the requirement for customers incurring more than one late charge in a subsequent 12-month period to pay an additional deposit. What we're doing here is taking that 12-month period and making it 24, so that if you had, and the reason we're doing this is if you have customers that have come in, they've been good paying customers, they've been loyal, their history showed they've been good, but they come into an illness, a family emergency, something to where they can't pay their bill on time, and they have a late fee within that time period, they don't get charged that deposit. We don't go after that customer who's been a great customer, but it will not protect a habitual offender with a poor payment history, because they would not be eligible for the deposit refunds at all. So we're looking to try to take care of the customers who've been taking care of their business, just ran into a bad situation. So that's what we're doing right here with the cleanup on this one. Other changes is the city-owned fire plugs. We're going to want to change the name of that to the fire construction meters. With this, we also want to change the rate of the base rate for those fire plugs to match the base rate for the 3-inch meters, because the water use is basically the same. So we want to go from $32.02 to $64.49. Those plugs, if you're not aware, are the ones that the construction companies get when they come and set up on site. They hook it up to the meter, and they can meter their water coming through there. That's what that is going to be used for, okay? We want to change the outside city limit return flow factor for residential and commercial sewer customers from 150 to 100%, as this has a maximum of amount not to exceed 10,000 gallons per unit. We're going to add the rates for residential and commercial outside the city limits that shall be equal to the rates for inside the city limits plus 50%. So outside rates are going to be 100% plus the 50% on that. So changing the verbiage of this. We have 3 alternatives, and city staff recommends that council approve the ordinance amending Chapter 30, Water, Sewer, and Sewer Disposal of the Code of Ordinance to amend the water and sewer rates and other changes as presented. And I'm here for any questions you may have, and Mr. Kanya, Water and Sewer Director, is here as well.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. I just have a question. What's a poor customer?
Excuse me?
You said between a good customer and a poor customer.
No, I said they have a poor payment history.
Oh,
A customer has a
history?
habitual poor payment history.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a poor customer because I don't have any money, so.
You should have gone first, because yours is quick. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a complaint, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
As far as the extending customer deposit refund from 12 months to 24 months, is there going to be alert or some type of notification to citizens so they are aware of that?
Yes, sir. We will do this through our communication department,
Very
sir.
good. Thanks, sir. That's all I have.
Any more questions? Okay, my last question. So you said 12, seriously now, you said 12 months to 24 months. Okay, could you go more in detail about that?
Yes, right now, if you pay your deposit, when you get your water account, you pay a deposit after 12 months. If you got a good payment history, that deposit kind of gets refunded back to you. Then if you have a late fee After that, then you have to pay that fee, that deposit, the amount of that deposit is charged to you for being late. What we want to do is go to a 24-month period to where it's not so restrictive on people who, if you got somebody who has had a great payment history, all right, and they get, I'm getting a loss in my words right here.
No, I understand what you're saying. That's why I was getting ready to ask you that question with the poor customer, but you said poor payment. And then I saw a council member, because I want them to go first. So basically, what I'm understanding is 24 months, if I go and deposit and get a house, and I've been living here for 25 years.
ma'am.
And I have one missed payment, right? Is that late fee or missed payment? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Late fee.
Okay,
Late fee, yes, ma'am.
okay. That's all I needed to know.
Okay.
Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes, ma'am.
Items for discussion at workshop. Madam Secretary.
DS 23078, discuss proposed FY 2024 operating and CIP budget.
Mrs. Drake, welcome back.
We don't really have any follow-up unless you have anything that you would like to discuss.
Because everyone did receive the CIP budget. Any questions? All right, no, ma'am. Thank you. All right, our last item, council members' requests for future agenda item. Madam Secretary.
RQ 23009, council investigations.
Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Article 3 is Section 39 of the Charter authorizes council members to conduct inquiries into the conduct of any office, department, agency, or officer of the city, and the council to make investigations into municipal affairs. However, there's no procedure for this, for an individual council member to do an inquiry or the council to do a investigation. And I think, so this request is to, by establishing these procedures, will kind of enhance our credibility and allowing the inquiries and investigations, which already happens in the, per the charter, it'll uphold the public's faith and our ability to address concerns and make decisions. I think we all talk about transparency and accountability and responsiveness. I think as we strive to push towards this, I think the council should establish procedures to do that. And so I am moving to place on the agenda a discussion on the establishment of procedures for individual council member inquiries and the formation of an ad hoc committee for investigations as needed, and direct staff to develop the proposed procedures to be presented.
Councilmember Boyd.
Second the motion.
So read this is a motion of direction. We don't do motions at workshops. What is the motion of direction?
To place the agenda item, place it on the agenda item for discussion to establish procedures for the inquiries by individual council members and the investigations through an ad hoc committee by the council, and directing staff to develop those proposed procedures.
Okay, so you want on the council, you want on the agenda for future discussion that council get investigated?
No, create a procedure for doing that.
Okay.
A system for doing it, because we don't have one now.
Clarify, Mr. Boyd, because you heard said system. I don't understand. Are we going by what's in the charter or what?
Yes, it's referencing the charter. The charter does not spell out how, it just says we can. All I'm asking is that the council establish the guidelines for doing that, so that if something comes up that will require it, we're not shooting from the hip.
To require us to investigate staff, is that correct?
Or whatever the charter says. The charter spells out inquiries can be conduct in an office, department, agency, or officer, and the council can conduct investigations on municipal affairs.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
I get where you're going, Councilman Adams. However, there is a procedure. And the procedure is within the TML and is with other procedures. I've been through those procedures. They're hard procedures. And they ask the questions, even if it's questions that it's not even pertaining to what's going on. So yes, your ethics and who you are sitting up on this dais can be questioned by not only people in the audience, but people on the dais. So it can occur, and I'll be more than happy to show you.
Is that
That's not a two-way conversation. Are you finished? Because I thought you had something for clarity,
Oh, yes.
for clarification. This is to put it on the agenda.
Okay, we can put it on the agenda, but I don't think it should go on the agenda.
Okay.
I know.
Okay, show it in your vote. Now, this putting things on the agenda means that it's not a discussion, it's just clarity to what he wants in his motion of direction. And Mayor Pro Tem made it clear how she feel on it. Councilmember Sagara.
I need some of the Mayor Pro Tem's energy tonight, because she is just on fire. No, for clarity, I just want to ask, and this may be a city attorney question, but doesn't this fall under our governing standards that we just did, or are we going to revamp it because we got a new council member? Because I know we just recently approved it, but I think that, wouldn't this fall under our governing standards, something like this?
It could. There's not a procedure in your governing standards for this particular thing now, for how to conduct an investigation as to municipal affairs. There's no procedure in your governing standards. There could be.
Yeah, so are we bringing that back, or that the one is this something that, okay, I just want to make sure, because I don't remember if we had two council members, I don't remember if that was before or after.
We're in a discussion when we need to be getting clarification. When we do put an item on the agenda, it's not up for discussion. The only questions that should be asked is for Mr. Adams to clarify his motion of direction.
Yeah, and that's my clarification. It's I think this should be something that should be on our governing standards.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Solomon, clarification questions.
Yes, and that's what I'm asking. Can you clarify that? Where's this coming from? Could you explain that more, please?
I remember in the beginning I referenced Article 3, Section 39, that gives the council, we've had already in the history the ability to investigate, but there has been no procedure that's been codified in our documents. Then last year, the charter election added for council members to individually conduct inquiries, and there is no procedure codified for that.
So basically, what he's trying to put in place, procedures, if we want to, as a council member, individual or as a council, to investigate the staff, if there's anybody can come up and file a complaint and say, hypothetically, I'm the assistant city manager and I talked to them disrespectful, or I didn't do what I was supposed to do, I didn't answer their email, then we, the council, would come up with a procedure how we, the council, will investigate any complaint against city staff. That's basically it.
I heard him mention officer as well. Is that including the council itself?
The charter defines officer, and it includes us, the city manager, any officer of the city. It's whatever that definition is in the charter. We wouldn't have to address that.
So we're going to investigate each other. Any more clarification so I can go to the next person? Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. And just for further clarification, let me see if I understand you correct, Councilmember Adams. The charter already allows for council to conduct these inquiries or investigations, whatever you want to call it, and the officers are defined in there. What you're wanting is a process or a procedure in place that says how and when we can do that. And I agree, I think that's something that's absolutely important, because what you don't want is somebody getting in their feelings and calling for an inquiry or investigation of somebody for no factual reason or basis. So I think it's absolute, has value and merit to have that procedure in place. So, there's certain things that have to happen to trigger said inquiry or investigation. We're just not shooting off the hip because you don't care for somebody. So, thank you so much for
Okay.
proposing that.
Any more, Mayor Pro Tem?
I just really believe that we should never give a person a procedure. In your government standard, it tells you how you can go and do that. Well, you can go out with the staff and you can do your inquiries when you have that complaint. It's there. Just read it.
All right, I'm sorry.
So I think that we're taken away because there are so many avenues. I've gone down those avenues, and we're not going to talk about them. However, there is a way. There is a way where people can go and complain about your ethics. There is a place. You can do all of those good things. Online, through TML. Just think about it. Just read.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to go ahead on and a motion of direction to call for the vote on that one. All in favor of putting this on a future agenda, say yes. All opposed, say no. Wow, it barely made it. It's 4-3. Okay, motion. Mayor Pro Tem to dismiss.
I move that we dismiss. I move that we
Councilmember
adjourn.
Solomon? Okay, all in favor? Meeting adjourned.